2. Two, check. Hello. Hello, Chad. How's it going? Hello. What do you mean am I underwater? What does that mean? How's it going, everybody? How's it going, chat? A huge water main break? Did not realize that. No, I'm not underwater. I'm good. I'm fine. Wow, oh my god. Yeah, that's pretty far from where I am. Holy shit. That's not... That's you. Crazy. Holy shit. This is Montreal right now. Is that good? Is that good? That seems not so great. This is east. This is de Laurier and St. Catherine. So kind of the other side of the city from where I am. That's wild.
Oh my god.
Letting bad humors out of the pipe system. Yeah, you gotta do that sometimes. You gotta just open them up. You gotta just open them up sometimes. Well, that should be fine. Are you going to be like Calgary, not allowed to shower for 3 weeks? I certainly hope not. I certainly hope not. That would be not so good. It would be not so good for that to happen. So I hope that that's not the case. Yeah, we need a red scary field report. Yes. Did anyone see? I posted a TikTok today of some Quebec excellence. Anyone see this? I love these guys. There's just this like Quebecois guy on TikTok who just like tortures his poor dad all the time and just like posts his reactions. If you don't know what like Quebec culture is, and you don't know like Quebec French, if it feels like strange to you or foreign, like this is it. This is Quebec culture.
Hein?
Ça, toi?
Ça traîne là. C'est quoi ça? Tabarnak!
Ramasse-les comme faut, tu sais.
Tabarnak, c'est quoi ça? Tiens.
Ben là, pas.
Ah ben, tabarnak. Ben, sacrement!
Qu'est-ce
Toi
que
qui as mis ça là?
Ben non, tu sais, j'entraînais là.
Oh, du calice! Mon calice, un coup de pied, c'est des petites affaires, là. Ben, tabarnak.
Ben là, pas, moi, c'est pas à moi, j'entraînais là.
À qui,
tu sais,
ça?
je le sais pas.
Asti! Calice de tic, hein?
Oh, il y en a un autre.
Tabarnak! Mon
C'est ça.
arrête de me niaiser, asti! Moi, ça, c'est que le gars-là, ce calice.
I love that guy. Love that guy, and his son is just always fucking with him. How many tabarnaks was that? It was a lot. It was a lot of tabarnaks. I like a good sacrament. You can measure how mad an old Keb man is by how long it takes him to say tabernacle. This is a 1 out of 5. Yeah, if you're like in traffic or whatever, as an old Quebecois guy gets stuck in traffic with a tabernacle, like then it's like a good calice is good as well. I love cursing in French, honestly. Cursing in I regularly curse in French. Like, I don't speak French that often. I do like sometimes when I go out. I was at the vet today getting Momo's special food. And I speak to the people at the vet. I speak to people in restaurants, whatever, But I don't speak French a lot in like my personal life. But a good calice, like when you're upset about something, there's nothing like it. There's just nothing like it. It just cleans you right out. What was happening there? Well, this young man is like torturing his old Quebecois dad by having a series of increasingly smaller ducks that he has to pick up. And this is their whole bit on TikTok. This son is always fucking with the dad and trying to elicit those exact reactions. It is kind of fucked. Sacrément, c'est tellement fucké, ça. Calice. That's what we'd say about that. That's what we'd say about that, folks. Oh, Comrade Social Distancing, I was going to watch this next. I was trying to like open the stream with some fun content, and I had this video queued up, but I'm glad you posted it. I have seen it, and I had it queued up to watch, but let's watch this. It's a Chinese dog that gets snitched on. Has anyone seen this one? I love this guy. I love everything about this.
小胖，你喜欢吃烤鸭？今天俺们没得鸭，我给你吃呢，不用害怕啊，他没得鸭。好嘞，好吃吧？哎，妈，小胖偷吃烤鸭，你快点！他偷吃烤鸭，
怎么又偷吃烤鸭呢？
他吃了2块，我看了。
小胖，别再偷吃了啊！
谁要吃的？啊，谁要吃烤鸭的？啊，拿你个熏的！谁要吃的？谁要吃的？又不能吃了啊！你怎么偷吃啊？啊，这偷吃2块，你不就不承认？
又别吃了啊！
你想多？回来！你怎么又生气了？啊？你不发错我就不告状了呢，谁给你发错了？原谅我吧，对不起，对不起，哎，对不起，你原谅我，快，对不起，哎，你原谅我，停。
His face is so great. He's like, why have you betrayed me? Why have you betrayed me? No, but Kira V, it was revealed that the dog is actually, they train the dog to like react like this. It's a whole bit that they like to do. So we don't need to worry. We don't need to worry. Zhao Pang is all right. He's okay. He's not being abused. It is a funny bit, though. It's a really funny bit, and the dog is so great. Look at him. You know what? Like, I don't think we need to be worried. Like I said, I think the dog's trained to react like that. I'm willing to bet that this dog has a great life. So I don't think this is a case of a dog being like abused or people being mean to it or whatever. I think this dog has an absolutely great life, I think. Anyway, the dog deserves more roast duck. I agree. I think the dog should have more roast duck. He's a nice little guy. I don't know. I don't know if I have any more like viral content or fun content queued up. It was really just those two things. I am glad that Quebec Excellence post is being seen by people because I'm glad people are experiencing our culture. You're a nice little guy, Rob. Thank you, Sam. I appreciate it. I'm not really little. I'm pretty big. We've hung out before, Sam. You know this. I'm a big boy. All right? I'm a big boy. I'm not a small bean. I'm not at all. I'm not at all a small bean at all. Got a source for this claim? Anyone seen the Korean video where a son eats a rare piece of duck and then regrets it and fashions a fake replacement piece? And when his mother gets suspicious, she does an entire laboratory research on the piece. I think that and this dog are just prime East Asian humor. I have not seen that. I have not seen that, but it sounds fun. How was your evening last night, chat? I had a nice evening. You know, I just spent time with my son. It's like I've been hanging out with him a lot, and which I really like. I think I mentioned this yesterday. He's been going to camp, like 2 minutes from my apartment, so he's been kind of staying with me this month most of the time, and I'm very happy with that because that's kind of my favorite thing to do is spend time with him. So we just kind of hung out last night. We've been having a good time. So I had a little bit of a regretful moment. I had a little bit of a regretful moment because I finished Red Dead 2. I finished the last mission, the final mission of like the epilogue, when that piece of shit Micah gets what's coming to him. But like, you know, he was around, and like sometimes we tool around in these games sometimes, even though they're a bit violent. I feel like it's all right if I'm there and we can kind of talk about it or whatever. And there's this moment in the final mission where you have to like threaten a guy, and you like threaten this guy and lead him up to these gallows and like put the rope around his neck and stuff like that. And he's like, no, please. And my son is like I would say a little bit too into it. I don't know. It's into it to the point that I'm like, this feels not so good that we're doing this, you know? But like, he's the sweetest guy. He's the sweetest guy. He would never harm a fly. He's not mean. He's not violent. He's a little sweetie. He's a little sweetie, you know, my son. So sometimes, like, I was into violent shit when I was a kid. I watched Aliens and all these adult-oriented, R-rated movies. I almost said adult movies, and that's not exactly what I meant. But I watched a lot of violent shit when I was a kid. I loved, like, toy guns and, like, action movies and people getting blown away and all kinds of gory shit. When I was, like, his age or not much older. So, like, I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? It's weird, like, kids like seeing kind of acts of violence like that. I don't know. I don't think it had really an effect on me. Like, I'm not a violent person. I'm not like a angry person. I don't think it had any kinds of like long lasting traumatic effects on me watching this stuff. Because it's like, even when you're a kid, you recognize when something is a movie or a video game and whether something's in real life. It's like, it's clearly, kids are pretty smart, and kids are smart enough to realize that these are two different things. So, or that's what I tell myself when sometimes he does see these, like, what I would describe as probably inappropriately violent scenes in either films or, in this case, Red Dead Redemption 2. He was really excited by the hanging sequence. I felt a little uncomfortable with how much he enjoyed that one. But It was good. The last mission was fun, so it was hard. The last mission was quite hard, and it's nice to finally get through it. What are you going to play next now that you're done RDR2? I'll probably keep tooling around in RDR2 for a little while because the map is still open. There's still some side quests to do and stuff to do. There's still parts of the map that I haven't even explored. The whole everything below Blackwater basically is still fairly unexplored. I can do some bounties. I can do some hunting, get some rare furs. Yeah, that'll be one thing. So I'll probably be doing that for a little while. I think the next game I'm going to do is Horizon Zero Dawn, the sequel, Horizon 2. I really loved the original, really loved playing through it, and I just never got around to the sequel. And I have that, Forbidden West, that's right, and I am kind of looking forward to doing that. It's come very highly recommended to me by someone whose opinion I trust on the matter. And I've been highly encouraged to pick that one up, so I think I'm probably going to do that one next. But I'm gonna mess around in Red Dead Redemption 2 a little bit more first, I think. That's what I will probably be doing. I watched Gira play a lot of it. I wish my computer could handle it. It's on my list for when I upgrade. Yeah, I think it's probably superior on PS5 is what I've heard, but I just have a PS4 and I'm going to play it on that. But the first one looked beautiful on PS4, so I think in some ways, like the whole graphical arms race is like there's kind of diminishing returns. Like I don't doubt that PS5 has higher processing power and some more bells and whistles and stuff, but like after a certain point, like there's like a level of how good the graphics can be, and it's hard to they make these big leaps, like the leaps between PlayStation 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 3 and 4. These leaps are kind of getting less and less pronounced because of like how good it is. Like I thought Last of Us looked fantastic on the PS3, you know? And I played it on the PS4 and it looked great, but like I played it on PS3 and a lot of PS3 games are like really good graphics. So that's one of the reasons I didn't really feel like it was necessary to bite the bullet and pick up a PS5. Because I still think they look great. Like RDR2 looked fucking great on PS4. It looks fantastic. Still rocking the PS4. It's very good. I mean, I picked up a new one recently, and it works great. I had a lot of games for it already, so. Probably my favorite open world game is still Witcher 3, but I mostly play more linear games. That is another one, Sam, that's been very, very highly recommended to me, is Witcher 3. So I've never played any of the Witcher games, but I've heard some high praise for Witcher 3, and I could be convinced to get into that one next as well. You've got to play Witcher 3. Witcher 3 is cool. Witcher 1 and 2 are not great, but you can jump right into 3 without playing them. Maybe that's what I'll do, because that's been very, very highly recommended to me. Insurgent fan voice. Actually, Rob, I disagree with some of the things they say in The Witcher, so you shouldn't feature it on your stream. Yeah. Oh boy, we got some controversy. we had some big controversy on the Insurgents podcast because of Alex Perlman, and I guess some of the kind of like maybe this take. I didn't actually listen to it, so I don't actually know what people were getting mad about. I wasn't there for that episode. I was kind of predisposed. But apparently Alex Perlman made some kind of take about the Harris campaign in Gaza that really pissed some people off. But you know what? I think it led to some. It's a bit libbed up. I mean, I think I could believe that. Again, I didn't actually hear the quote in question that people were getting mad about. But I actually think it led to some pretty good discussion. I talked to Jordan about it last night, and we addressed it on the show. We addressed this whole thing on the show in the episode last night, and I thought it was actually a pretty productive conversation where we addressed the fact that people were kind of angry about some of these takes. We kind of clarified what our stance is about people coming on the show and saying certain things, even when we're not maybe totally on the same page. And it was a good excuse to talk about Gaza and how it is overshadowing a lot of things about the Harris Walls campaign. There's like without the ongoing horrors that we're seeing, there would be, I think, a lot to like about the Harris Walls campaign. You know, there seems to be a lot of genuine excitement around it. They're putting out some content which is like kind of fun and relatable, and they seem like normal, like human beings in contrast to the people that they're running against. They've just put out a fairly progressive, like kind of economic platform that we can take a look at. Like without Gaza going on, I think it would be way easier to draw some kind of contrast between Harris and Walls. And actually, we're getting right into it, I guess. It's enough fucking chit chat. We'll get right into it. I thought it was libbed up, but not being a baby. I can hear someone I disagree with. Well, and like as I mentioned on the show this week, there's been plenty of people. There's been a bunch of things said on our show since October 7th that I don't really agree with. I think there's been a couple of people that have said things that sometimes even made me a little uncomfortable. You know. But that's the whole thing. Is like as I mentioned on the show, what I like to do on there is have someone on there. If I think there's a question that I want to hear the answer to, or the audience might want to hear the answer to, I'll ask the question. And if people aren't convinced by the answer, they're not convinced. That's just been the way that I've always approached any kind of like the interviews that I do on that podcast or anywhere else. It was fine. I just found myself rolling my eyes, but I still listened to the whole episode. Perlman is a good speaker, but you can definitely tell he was swept away by the showmanship of it all. Yeah, I think that's my feelings on him. I like him. I think he's a okay guy. But yeah, I think getting into that kind of territory is especially right now is really tricky. And you know, if people weren't convinced by what he had to say, I don't blame you. You know, I'm not going to sit there and like spit in his face or call him like a genocide denier for it. But if people really like disagree with what he was saying about it, I have no complaints here. Like, feel free, disagree, please. Like, it's not illegal to disagree with the guy that you hear in a podcast. There's nothing wrong with that. We also need to know what the libs are saying. That's why I tie myself to a chair twice a week to force myself to listen to Pod Save. You're still doing that, Pelicans. Wow. Still doing that. Did you see the picture of Stephen King with the Kamala shirt? Yeah, I did, and it's just terrible, honestly. It is just terrible. So I think that's another point that I was making, is that there really is, even like with the caveat that it's the United States government, it's the Democratic Party, it's never gonna, if you're a fucking Marxist and you're waiting for the Democratic Party to be like a Marxist anti-imperialist party, well, that's not going to happen anytime soon. I think we all know that, right? I think we can talk about the election and talk about all these things while recognizing that the Democratic Party of the United States is not going to become a Marxist anti-imperialist party anytime soon. And you can have a critique over their support of imperialism, and you should have that critique, or their support for like law and order, these like draconian border policies. You should have that critique, and I agree with that. But there is still, I think, there are things to like about this campaign. Like I said, they're portraying themselves as way more just like normal and human. Like Walz, especially, I think it just seems like a kind of lovable guy, lovable Midwestern dad, grandpa kind of thing. They just unveiled this like somewhat ambitious economic platform. There's things to like about it, and we could sit here and talk about that. We could talk about these things. They aren't going to do any of it. Well, that's very likely as well. That's very likely. That's the classic liberal sleight of hand, right? Here's all the things we want to do, and then when you get in there, it's like, oh, we can't do it, unfortunately. But just having the platform is a start, risk inverse. Like that's a good point. And but the thing is, I find it really hard to talk about all these things that you might find like somewhat okay about this campaign, with this like ongoing horror show overshadowing everything. That's the reality, you know. It's like I'm just like going over some stuff that I talked about on the Insurgents podcast right now, but I would please ask people to please listen to this week's episode, because I think it was a really good talk. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed as well. But like I was talking about, there was that clip of like Kamala Harris talking to this little kid about tacos, and it's just like, it's so humanizing. It's like so humanizing, and she just looks so much more normal than like the like Donald Trump, JD Vance, weird psycho reactionaries that are just obsessed with people's genitals and like just this, all the weird shit that they're into. And then you look at this and it's super endearing.
Like fish. The carnitas are really my favorite. What's your favorite? Wait, I'm hungry. Yeah, no, I don't. I just maybe a little cilantro, a little lime. That's it. Not raw onion. Are you doing raw onion? No, me neither. Like fish.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's humanizing and it's endearing, and we could talk about that. But it's like, it's hard to talk about, oh, look at this sweet little clip of Kamala Harris talking to this little kid, when we're all getting inundated with images of dead little kids that are being killed by bombs being supplied by the United States government, which is currently being administered by the Democratic Party, and Kamala Harris is the vice president. Like, you know what I mean? We could we could share these kind of clips and be like, oh wow, that's funny. What a funny, cute little clip. But it's really hard to do that when you know the toll and the violence that's being inflicted on little kids in Gaza. Let me just push all the pics of these dead kids off this timeline so I can see the taco vid. Like, that's exactly it. $2 billion in weapons sales approved just 2 days ago. And this is the fundamental kind of contradiction here, you know? That's making it really hard to talk about this campaign. $20 billion. And I wonder, like, has anyone totaled up the total arms sales since October 7th? The total arms sales to Israel, it's got to be in like the 100 billion territory, right? By this point? Because it's been just like every couple of months, just a different massive weapon shipment. In addition to the several $billion they get in military funding every year, all the military subsidies they get every single year. It's got to be just like astronomical, though. Hello, Old Dutch. And you're right, human person. It's not just Gaza, but I think Gaza is still the focal point. It's still like the primary, geopolitical issue subject that we've been inundated with images from. Including a bunch sourced from General Dynamics in Quebec. Our arms production is integrated with American production, so our exports don't show up as exports to Israel. They show up as intercompany transfers between American and Canadian branches of the same companies. Yeah, it's so sinister the way the books are cooked in this way. It's Rob. Yes, it is me, Crackety Kraken. Hello. And by the way, folks, I mentioned yesterday I'm going to be going a little bit harder on the calls to action for the foreseeable future. For anyone that wants to support this program while we talk about this stuff, please subscribe if you can. I'm trying to get to the daily sub goal every single day. And the one thing that I've been really trying to push, I pushed this a lot yesterday, and I'm going to continue pushing this for the foreseeable future, are tips. The tips are really, really valuable to me right now. I'm in a little bit of not a terrible place, but a slightly tough spot because of the time off that I've taken this year, this summer, which was very necessary. But if you can subscribe to this program, or if anyone wants to please send a tip, if you enjoy this content and you like this show, you like the work that I do here on Twitch, please send a tip. It's super, super helpful right now. And well, it's helpful all the time, but it's especially helpful right now. So if you can, please subscribe, please tip. There's other ways to support as well. But whatever it is, it's all very much appreciated. And it would be good, frankly, if eventually some subs go in, because time starts to tick by. I'm still looking at a goose egg, and that always becomes psychologically that gets difficult when I'm faced with this situation. And the longer it goes on, the more I start fixating on it. So it would really be great to just move on from that. Even if just that. The Real Rob, thanks for the $10. Thank you, Real Rob.
Good work, Body Double. Thanks for filling in today.
No problem. Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the $10. I'm just going to get some water, if you don't mind. I'm going to go get some water. I'll be 1 minute. I'll be right back. And please, if anyone wants to subscribe or support the show, please do. I really, really appreciate it. It really helps me out a lot. We got a rib strick. Risk inverse. Thank you, Risk inverse. So with that whole caveat about the Harris Walls campaign, I do want to talk a little bit about some of this stuff. Frankly, there's been a really, I think, hilarious effort on the part of these conservative guys to try and because they see the excitement that's forming around Harris and Walls, and they keep desperately flailing trying to create some controversy about Walls. You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this. Perfect Speller, thank you for the gifted sub. Oh, and Risk Inverse. Thank you for the
You can count on
$17.
me.
That's
You're gonna
very
have
cool.
good old
Thank you for
Rob
that.
to talk you through all this.
I heard
really,
you
really
like
appreciate
tips.
that. And thank you, Pelicans, for the gifted sub as well. It's not Rob time. I mean, listen, I was on camera at noon today. What about that? I was on camera at noon today. So, you know, I'm not saying a hero, because what's a hero? But I wasn't even watching at noon. 40 lashes for me, I guess. Yeah, I'm gonna have to give you some lashings. Risk inverse. Gonna give you some lashings. Anyway, so there's this whole effort. There's this whole effort to kind of try to gin up some controversy about walls, right? And trying to. One thing that I saw that they were trying to do, they were trying to like do the couch thing, but to Tim Walz, because they were pissed off about the whole couch meme that somehow took hold against JD Vance, and they tried to create some fake rumor or some with like filled with sexual innuendo about Tim Walz, and it's just so obviously bullshit. And you have all these right-wing influencers being like, rumors are swirling about Walz being replaced. The disastrous Walz pick. Oh, there's just controversy after controversy piling up. When are they going to ditch this guy? And like, no, that's not actually happening. Like, this is just an example of these right-wing guys just living in this media, in this full-on bubble. Like they're fully in this conservative bubble, and they're trying to speak this stuff into existence, and no one is fucking buying it at all, except their own people who are gonna vote for them anyways. Shapiro's going to be the VP pick at the convention. Like, yeah, they're really trying to speak this into existence because they see the excitement. They see the fact that Walz was like an actually really good pick that people are like really uniting around. And please, believe me, when I talk about this, don't ever think that I am discounting the fact that Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party are still complicit in some of the worst, most horrific violence that we've ever seen in the modern era. I'm not losing sight about that. We're just talking about this. We're talking about this campaign, you know, and that's exactly why I said it's difficult to even talk about this stuff. I would catch snippets of Fox News where the headlines are detached from reality. Well, so did anyone see the latest Walz fake controversy, fake outrage? Because it is very funny, honestly. I come in and see that Rob has been coconut pilled. That's right. That's me. That's me. I did just fall out of a coconut tree, exactly. Actually. And I fell out of a coconut tree, and all the context that comes before me, totally lost. I don't know about any of it. It's the spice discourse. This is the latest Walz controversy. Because Tim Walz made a white people think mayo too spicy joke. They're trying to turn this now into some kind of like outrage cycle. They're desperately trying to spin up some kind of outrage cycle about Tim Walz's white people think mayo too spicy joke. And it's so desperate and pathetic, and it's really funny. And again, these clips are super humanizing. Like, compare this to like JD Vance being like, I'm a postmenopausal woman as the ideal form of child rearing. It's just like that. Like, just saying like, you know, random kind of banal truisms, but disguising it in this fucked up, weird kind of language is super alienating. And then you contrast that with this, and it's so like humanizing because they seem like normal people.
Like I have white guy tacos and
What is
like
that?
black,
Like mayonnaise and tuna? What are you doing?
pretty much ground beef and cheese.
That's
and,
okay. Do you put any flavor in it?
No.
Oh.
Here's the deal. No, they said to be careful and let her know this, that black pepper is the top of the spice level in Minnesota, you know?
I'm the first vice president, I believe, who has ever grown chili peppers.
I'm trying to expand my food knowledge.
You know what? We've got some cantaloupes. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
This is it. Let her know this, that black pepper is the top of the spice level in Minnesota. And oh boy, oh no, could you believe? Could you believe that this statement is maybe a little less than accurate? Yeah, I hate to admit it too, Joe. I hate to admit it too, honestly. It is charismatic. And now look, like this is honestly so funny though, like seriously. So now the right-wing citizen journalists have logged on and they saw Tim Walz's joke about black pepper being too spicy for Minnesota, and they logged on and they've discovered that this statement was maybe not totally accurate. And this is going to be a major story coming to this election. This is going to be a major story. Cernovich says, Jesus, on a hunch, I thought, I wonder if Tim Walz is lying about how people in Minnesota don't season their food. And he won a recipe contest in 2016. Tim's turkey taco hot dish. Apparently award-winning. With his turkey taco hot dish, Rep. Tim Walz grabbed first place at Senator Al Franken's 6th annual hot dish off on Wednesday. And look at this, folks. Here's the hold on, wait. Sorry, just 1 second. This is going to be a funny bit. But you'll notice that despite Tim Walz's comment about white people think mayo too spicy, what if I told you that it goes much deeper? What if I told you there is an element of subterfuge going on here? He's hiding something. He's hiding something from all of us with this comment. They should have saved this bombshell for October. I agree. This could have been an October surprise. Could have upended the whole election. Okay? Because Tim Walz said he doesn't know about spice. Who has the power to cover it all up? That's the question. Who benefits? Who benefits when Tim Walz says black pepper too spicy? And he's not being totally honest, okay? Because look at this. Look at this ingredient in his award-winning turkey taco hot dish recipe. Oh, what's this? What's this? Paprika, chili powder, onion powder, garlic powder. He's a liar. He's lying. He's lying to you. Why? What is he covering up? Allegedly award-winning, and we should be looking into this as well. With the foreign oil as well being added in as also paprika gate. We call him Lion Tim. It's the smoking gun. Okay, that's enough of it's so funny to put that music on over like anything, pretty much. The 3 major powders up the Reds. This is what's happening, and the fucking comments to this are so funny. They're so funny. And they're actually trying to turn this into a thing. Like, these people are not joking. They're not joking about this. Is not a bit that they're doing. They're not doing a bit. Like, these people are deadly serious about this. This is actually what Rob's internal monologue sounds like all the time. That's not entirely inaccurate. Look at these. Like, we thought we were joking. Like, we can do riffs about this or whatever. Add Spicegate to the ever-expanding list of Tim Walz scandals. He has to appeal to the white guilt crowd now, so he's changing his position on spices. Dude will literally lie about anything. Freaking unbelievable. Does he ever tell the truth? He can't even nail down his stance on spices. Oh, it's literally still up. The investigators are looking into it even more. It's literally still up. The turkey taco tot hot dish recipe is still up. He didn't even have the foresight to take that down, to delete that tweet when he made that statement about white people taco night. We're through the looking glass here, people. Have they never heard a joke? How can anyone take this seriously? It's honestly, Joe, I genuinely don't understand. You see this a lot with like conservatives. It's like they don't understand what a joke is. Like they really don't. You know, I experienced that myself. I've made a lot of jokes that people have taken very seriously on Twitter. Like when I said I would rather my daughter dated a member of MS-13 rather than a Republican. That actually wasn't a joke. That was actually being serious. I don't have a daughter, but if I did, I would genuinely prefer that they dated an El Salvadorian gang member than a Republican. But other examples, though, there's many other examples of conservatives just genuinely just not understanding humor. This is why there's no good conservative comedians. This is why the only conservative comedians, the only thing they do are just like pronouns, huh? I identify as a piece of paper now. What do you think about that? I identify as a can of Diet Coke. Like that's their joke. That's their humor. You know? Yeah, they don't understand a joke about how it isn't punching down at the lower class of people. That's it. It's all just like, oh, I'm not supposed to say that? Aren't I a naughty boy? That's conservative humor. Aren't I a naughty boy? All these things I'm supposed to not say? What's the deal with trans people? Like, that's basically all it is. Are you just saying you identify as things on your desk? Yes, Jay. Yes. Literally, still up. Jesus. We can't stand him. He's making us Minnesotans look stupid and incompetent. He's so bad at this. Why did he act in the video as if he had no idea about spice on tacos? Just to play up the dumb, older, nerdy white guy act? Lame. The Minnesota media did a fluff story on Walls' recipes. This is probably my favorite one. This is one of my favorite comments I've ever seen from a raw egg nationalist. It's almost like everything he says is a lie in pursuit of power. You don't spend the amount of time he spent in China and not like spicy food. They lie so much. How do they keep track of them all? These blue checks. I mean, these absolute, this ocean of blue check fucking losers. He hijacked the famous tater tot hot dish that's a staple in Minnesota. He's a Nebraskan pretending to be a Minnesotan. This isn't even just about a simple lie. This is about him purposely setting aside a legit, relatable, and humanizing personal fact about himself and willingly playing along with the stereotype for a little skit portraying white dudes as like stupid Andy Griffith characters. I now want to challenge Kamala to a pepper growing contest. This is all over him just being like, oh, in Minnesota, we don't put spice on our food. It's too much. Like doing a little joke about like, oh, it's too spicy. And this guy's like bragging about all his pepper plants. He dodged serving in Iraq and he made up a fake line about white people tacos when he uses many spices to cook food. The only thing he's genuine about is drinking and driving. Spicegate. Dude is on a lying spree. There's dozens of these comments. Here's another great one. This brilliantly illustrates how anyone with curiosity can be a researcher in the political realm. Take lessons from Cernovich, the master. He's showing the way for those of us without insider information to break stories. There's a whole world of information archived out there. I'm sorry for these read like people leaning into outrage humor. No, I think these are 100% earnest. Honestly, risk inverse. I think these are totally earnest. I think these people are being deadly serious about this. I really do. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's me not getting the joke. I highly doubt that, though. I don't think so. I'm sure if enough people make fun of them, they'll probably try to pivot to that. Oh, I was just joking about that. They're not joking. They're not joking. And if they ever say that they are, they're lying. They're making it up. Hello, Husker. How's it going? What's up? Honestly, forgot how much of a weird freak Cernovich is. He kind of slid under the radar, didn't he? Like, I remember he was he was kind of like almost a main character for a little while, like after the 2015, like 2016 campaigns and the Trump election. He is a top freak, exactly. And he was a big Pizzagate guy. He was one of the main guys pushing the whole Pizzagate story. Oh, anyway, that's the big controversy. Guerrilla mindset, big into essay as well. Oh, he had a whole career prior to kind of breaking out online as being like a fucked up like men's rights activist.
Some leftist based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Struggle 4. Thank you for the raid. Loving the rebrand, Marcus. Thank you so much for the raid. I appreciate it. Hello, everybody. It's me, Rob. It's nice to see ya. Bring it on in here. Get in, Raiders. It's nice to have you here. Please smash the follow button if you can. It's Rob Rousseau talking here about I think the central controversy of the 2024 U.S. election so far. I don't know if Marcus was covering it. This might have been a little bit too outrageous for Marcus. This is like a real serious conspiracy going on that we've uncovered here. I don't know if Marcus, it might have just been too much for him to touch it. It might have been too much. It might have been too spicy for him to touch it. But did you know, folks, did you know that Tim Walz, VP pick Tim Walz, despite saying in a video clip with Kamala Harris yesterday that white people think mayo too spicy, did you know that actually in 2016 he won a recipe contest in which he used the following spices: paprika, chili powder, onion powder, and garlic powder. And some of our intrepid citizen journalists on the right have nailed his ass to the wall over this. This is going to be the central controversy that animates the next several weeks, if not months, of discourse. This man has been exposed. He's been exposed as a liar. Those are spices, Marcus. I know. He said he didn't like spices, and look at this shit. I don't see no hot pepper. Well, that's the funniest thing about this, is that this is not actually spicy. Like, Cernovich, by even talking about this, and all the people freaking out about it, are proving this exact stereotype about white people thinking mayo too spicy. Because they're like, look at that, he put all these deadly spices in there. He was probably eating that just like your fucking face was going numb eating that. I am ghost pale and I eat Korean food. I eat extremely spicy food. I eat those buldak noodles. Love them. Fire up some chicken thighs and spices on those. Make some super spicy buldak noodles. Some bok choy or something, throw those on there. Fantastic. I love it. But they're talking about like paprika, chili powder, onion powder, and garlic powder as being like, he's been exposed. This man has been exposed for a liar. He a lie. I actually had extra serrano peppers chopped up to bulldog noodle cape. That is actually kind of outrageous, I gotta say. I have never seen the point of garlic powder or onion powder when fresh garlic and onions are never scarce. Well, I guess, Carnoba, like, obviously it's nice to put fresh garlic and fresh onions in a recipe, but if you're, like, putting spices on, like a piece of meat or something like that, I think it's, you use the powder. You use garlic powder and onion powder and that kind of stuff. Like, that's usually what I do when I'm making, yeah, a rub. When you want to make a rub, exactly. And you know what? Even though I love to cook and I love fresh garlic, I kind of find like chopping up garlic and peeling it, I find it kind of annoying, honestly. What I get from the Korean store, I get this like a crushed garlic in a tub from the Korean grocery store, and I use that. Is that garlic? I don't know. I think because it comes from the Korean grocery store, I feel like it's better. I feel like it's like not so bad. Am I going to be canceled? Are you going to cancel me now, chat? Am I being canceled? Don't cancel me. Don't cancel me over this. I'm a garlic apologist. Listen, I think fresh garlic's better, but I like my crushed garlic from the Korean grocery store, okay? It's easy. I get a big tub of it, and it's fantastic. Anyway, this is the big controversy. And they're actually trying to turn this into like his comments about white people taco night. They're genuinely really trying to turn this into a thing. Like it's so like ridiculous that it turned Ben Shapiro into a parody of Ben Shapiro. He says, "See, folks, it's funny that white people hate spices. Not racist at all. Just funny. Fact check. Europeans liked spices so much that they literally got involved in several hundred years of war in order to determine control of the spice trade." Because he made a crack. He made a crack about people in Minnesota not liking spicy food, which is racism to Ben Shapiro. To Ben Shapiro, not racist is like celebrating the murder of a 14-year-old kid, which he did over Trayvon Martin, and celebrated and mocked the fact that he was murdered. That's not racist for him. But what racism really is Tim Walz being like, white people taco night, huh? We only put black pepper on there. Like that's the real racism, according to Ben Shapiro, the cool kids philosopher. The cool kids philosopher, as he was called by the NYT, famously. He made a self-deprecating joke, and weird people can't figure it out because these people don't understand what a joke is. That's what I keep saying. They don't understand what a joke is. And that's also true, Soy Preb. Ben means Europeans controlled the spice to sell it. Doesn't mean white people were using it for culinary purposes. Tim Walz committing white genocide. That would get me to really support him.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Shapiro only self-deprecates unintentionally.
Thank you, Joey Stalin, for the 37 months of Prime. I think Shapiro sometimes self-defecates in his little diaper. Sometimes. He's a little baby. He who controls the spice controls the universe. The Matt Christman observation that conservative comedians get too angry to finish their jokes in a funny way is never wrong. Yeah. It's so easy to just like ignore this shit or being like, or just say like, oh, these people are lame. Look at them like, or call them phony. Oh, they're being phony. They're trying to seem relatable and they're phony. Like there's things you could say about a clip like this, but they can't fucking help themselves. They can't help themselves by freaking out over this. My desert, my Arrakis, my dune. Who else is freaking out about this? I'm sure like they're really trying to do a whole discourse about this, and this is like part of the point I was making about the fact that they keep trying to manufacture this outrage about Tim Walz because they see that like people like him. They see that people are like responding to that pic, and it's building up some excitement. And they're just so desperate to manufacture some kind of controversy or outrage against Tim Walz. And the more that they try to do it, the more pathetic that they seem. Jack Posobiec doing a this you. Jack Posobiec's doing a this you with the spicy turkey taco tot hot dish. They got him. They nailed his ass. I'm just scrolling through some of the comments. Like, and it fundamentally goes back to the weird thing, right? It's like as much as they've been called weird, and they can't help themselves but just to be weirder and weirder and weirder in response, and they keep just going down this path. And they just see everything that they do is just more alienating and off-putting. And this is exactly what we were talking about, Husker. They're mad because Walz made a self-deprecative joke, which is an alien concept to conservatives whose humor only ever punches down. That's what I was saying before you showed up. Because to them, humor is just like, I identify as a gerbil or something. Like that's conservative humor. And they can't handle someone being like, oh, spicy food, no thanks. A little black pepper is enough for me. And just like, it just enrages them. And it's the fact that people are responding to it. People are responding and they like it and they find... Like, who are these people? I can't believe Tim Walz lied about not being a spice guy. His taco bake recipe clearly used multiple spices. Like, these people are serious. Yeah, like this is not beating the weird allegations. Not beating the weird allegations. I see Tim Walz is putting on the Uncle Tim act for Kamala. A properly trained house cracker, which is, I'm reading a comment. I would never say that kind of a slur on twitch.tv. Stereotypical Minnesota Delta accent. Yes, ma'am, I reckon normal tacos is too spicy for an unmelanated individual such as myself. I need a white guy taco. No spice and lame like me. Like, did they not understand how fucking strange this is to people? To look at that clip, that totally harmless clip of him doing this like self-deprecating joke and formulate that kind of a take about it. You know? Do they not understand that, like, that to any, like, average normal person, that's like, what the fuck? You know? Oh, PM Trio, absolutely. They're going to turn around and say, you thought we were serious? It was all a joke, and you were, in fact, the fool. I know they're going to say that. You know what? They're fucking liars. These people are 100% serious. They're 100% serious. Anyway, it's just been funny to see these people flail around and try and create this controversy about Tim Walz, because they see that people are like somewhat excited by it. People are finding them like relatable, and they're just losing their fucking minds, just flailing. And the more that they do that, the more pathetic and embarrassing and off-putting and weird they seem. They're just too horned up for racism. These people can't do it. They can't just let it go. Just let it go. You know, you don't need to go freak out about a clip about them talking about white people tacos. Their inability to deal with what seems like a fairly decent and normal human is hilarious. They're melting down. That's what it is. It's just like, he just seems like a normal guy, and they cannot handle it. Especially in light of the weird comments about J.D. Vance. They're realizing that hitching their wagon to a game show host was only going to work if the Dems had a corpse running for president. By the way, folks, while we're hanging out here, if people enjoy this program, please subscribe if you can. Really kind of trying to go hard on this week. I hope you don't mind. If you enjoy this program and if you like this kind of commentary, whether you're a new viewer, news chatter, whatever, if you're a lurker, if you're a long-time viewer, listener, whatever, chatter, please subscribe. Help me make the little number at the bottom of the screen go up. That's how I managed to keep this show on the air. And another thing as well that I'm really trying to push this week and for the foreseeable future is tips. The tips are really, really helpful to me right now. So if you enjoy this program, if you like tuning into this show and seeing the jokes and the analysis and the interviews and the humor and the serious discussions and the talking about jacking off and the Last Jedi and whatever else it is, please subscribe and please send a tip, even if it's like if you got $1, $2, $5, whatever it is.
Count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Just the tip, exactly. It's all very, very helpful. Like I said, I'm in a little bit of a bind, a little bit of a tight spot because of
size of the account.
Taking time off this summer. So if you can, please do send a tip. I do really, really appreciate it. And I appreciate everyone that supports this program, like Kippawa. Thank you for the 2 months of Tier 1. And thanks, Comradeski, for the 100 bits as well. Thank you to you both. But yes, please subscribe and tip if you can. Anonymous, thanks for the 1337. That's really, really kind of you. Thank you, Anon. Honestly, these tips right now are really, really helping me out. I cannot stress enough how much that is really, really helping me out right now. Is there where I can tip without PayPal? I don't really think so. And Barfcast, oh my gosh. Barfcast TV. Holy shit. Holy shit, Barfcast. Thank you for $100. Oh my goodness. Barfcast, I really, really appreciate that. Seriously, you've helped me out so much over the years, and I will not forget it, honestly, because it's very kind of you. I actually tried to raid you yesterday. I saw you were streaming, and I tried to raid, but I guess you didn't want hundreds of people barging into your little space and watching what you're doing and chatting with you, which I kind of understand because sometimes it's a little weird, frankly. But Barfcast, thank you again. Seriously, I really appreciate that. Comrade Sky, thanks for the 69 bits as well. That's the sex number. That is the sex number, as we all know. Anon, thanks for the $20. It is in fact the sex number. It's true. It is. Thank you, Anon, for the $20. That's really, really kind of you as well. Very generous, and I really appreciate that a lot. And I hope you folks don't mind that I'm going kind of hard on this right now. Going kind of hard. You know? But it's very, very helpful, and I appreciate it a lot. Going hard when it's just the tip. That's right. It's a funny number and just no one knows why. No one knows why that is. Straight into gooning again. We can't escape it. We can't escape it. We're always edging right up to that kind of content, aren't we? We edge right up to that kind of content until we pass the tipping point. It's true. Guess mine didn't post a notification 1337 your way. Husker, thank you very much. I don't know why that would be. But Husker, I really, really appreciate
you can count on
the support.
You're gonna have good old
over the
Rob
years.
to
Thank you,
talk
Husker.
you through all this.
Thanks, Bob.
And Comrade Sky, thanks for the 12 months of Tier 1. That's one entire year, Comrade Sky, and enjoy the brand new 12-month, 1-year sub badge. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Okay. So if there are any, we can move on. If there's any other takers, if anyone else wants to support this show with a sub or bits or a tip or what have you, it's all very, very useful, very helpful to me. The number goes up, the number goes down. No one can explain it.
You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
Sam, thank you for 5 gifted subs. Thank you for 5 gifted subs, Sam. I appreciate that a lot. I really appreciate the support. Should there be a petite nombre for the tips as well? Maybe there should be. I don't totally know how that works, though. I don't totally know how that would work. Gotta support my favorite little guy. Well, thank you. Thank you, Sam, even though I'm not a little guy, but okay. Is it Pizza Hut Friday yet? Well, it is Pizza Hut Friday, but my son's going over to spend some time with his at his mom's place tonight. So I think he's going to be doing Pizza Hut over there. It's going to be a solo Rob night tonight, but which is going to be hard. I really miss him when he's not here, but he's been with me for most of this month so far, and it's been really nice. It's been really nice. So I guess I can't really complain too much. You can still eat Pizza Hut. That's true. I could.
We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Technically, I could.
Take it easy, little guy.
Joe, thanks for the 200 bits. Thank you, Joe. You're in the computer. Got to be kind of little to fit in there. I'm just a little guy that lives in your phone or your computer. I'm just a little guy that lives in your phone or computer. That's right. That's me. And Joey Stalin, thanks for the 1337. Why did Husker not get that? That's weird.
You can count on
Thank
me.
you, Joey Stalin.
Look
at all the Robs on
talk
screen.
you through all this.
Pizza time.
And Spaceman Zador, thanks for the 11 months of Tier 1. Thank you, Spaceman. There's a little guy in my digital shrine. That's right, and we do have a possible hype train leaving the station as well. So if we did, I'm not telling you what to do, folks, but if we did get one more sub, that would get that hype train out of the station. And then what does that lead to? Then we get emotes, possibly. We get all kinds of exciting benefits. All kinds of exciting benefits
You
to
can
that.
count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Anon, thanks for the gifted sub as well. You know, one thing I got to work on is making the gifted sub alert different from the sub alert. I think that's one thing. It's been 4 years of the same thing, but that's one thing I got to do, I think.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Bon Bon, thank you for the gifted sub as well. Very much appreciated, Bon Bon. Thank you for that. So, folks, we do have a little hype train going now. We're on level 3 of this hype train. So if you do subscribe or gift subs or what have you, also get the opportunity right now to get some very cool, specialized hype train emotes from good old twitch.tv. So if you don't want to sub to support this program, if you just want to do it purely selfishly and cynically to get cool emotes, you can do that right now. You can do that. And we're 22 subs away from the goal.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Crackety Kraken, thanks for the gifted sub. Life with Aussies says, I fell asleep to one streamer, then must have woke up to getting rated into you so high. Hello, Life with Aussies. Welcome. Good morning. Good morning, sunshine. How did you sleep? Did you sleep okay? You came to the right place. You woke up in the right place. You know what? You don't ever have to leave again. What if I told you you just woke up and you're home? You're home. You're with your people now. This is the place where you want to be. Life with Aussies. Rob was watching you sleep, actually. That's true, yes. And in fact, if someone could gift Life with Aussies a sub, that would be a great incorporation into the Friendship Triangle community. Your old family, forget them. Rob's your dad now. I mean, this is probably a good excuse to take a look at
You can count on me. You're going to have
my
good
little
old
orientation
Rob to,
video,
talk you
because we
through
do
all
have some
this.
new people maybe to the stream today, including Life with Aussies. Thank you, Duke, for the gifted sub to Life with Aussies. I appreciate that. And if you are new to this show and you don't know what TRRS is, you don't know what the Friendship Triangle is, I did create a little onboarding orientation video for you. So if you are new, if you came here through the algorithm or a raid or what have you, and you're like, what is this? What is all this? What is TRRS? What's the Friendship Triangle these guys are talking about? What's going on here? Well, I've got a little video presentation for you, and it's a great time to put it on while I get this hype trains going on, because it'll tell you exactly why it's a good idea, not just for me, but for you to subscribe to this program. It's a good decision for you. It's a life-changing decision to subscribe to this very program.
Thank you for expressing interest in the Friendship Triangle community. We would be thrilled to have you on board as a member of our exclusive platform. As you may know, the Friendship Triangle is Twitch's only two-dimensional, triangle-shaped, friendship access and trickle-down clout tiered reward system. Today you have an amazing opportunity to join the base level of the Friendship Triangle system. Once you are part of the community, you'll have the ability to rise through the ranks and achieve higher levels of access and rewards. One way to do this is by gifting subscriptions to your fellow members or by inviting your friends and family members to join our community.
Yeah.
As you ascend the tiers, you will be exposed to a range of new and exciting benefits, such as exclusive content, advanced
It's not a pyramid
features,
scheme, it says
and
right there.
access to our elite community members.
This part's important,
We are
though.
confident that you will enjoy all the perks that come with being part of the Friendship Triangle.
This next part's
However,
really important.
we also want to remind you that not all friends and family members are to be trusted,
No.
especially those who may not support your new lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's why we encourage you to focus on building meaningful relationships within our community, where you will find like-minded individuals who share your interests and values. If you
No,
have
the show's
any
not sponsored
questions
by arms
or concerns,
manufacturers.
please don't hesitate to reach out to our team. We are always here to support our members and ensure that your experience with the Friendship Triangle is enjoyable. We're glad that you are considering joining the Friendship Triangle community. We look forward to seeing you rise through the chaos zone and all the way into the elite tier.
Also important.
It's not a cult.
That's really, because sometimes there's some confusion about that. Sometimes there is some confusion about that last part, but I just wanted to clarify. So the level 3 of this hype train almost out, but there's still time for if you do want to subscribe and support this program. 20 subs away from the goal. There is still time, even if there isn't a hype train, and you still can. And we're not slaves to the hype train. We don't need to only subscribe when there's a hype train, you know? We don't need to. I'm in the elite tier, and I got to say, I can really feel the clout trickling down. Well, in the elite tier, that's where the clout is most concentrated, because you see me, I'm there, right? That's me. I'm there. And when the clout trickles down, you can see how it trickles down there. And when you're here, it's more concentrated. Okay? And as you go down, here's the chaos zone around here. And then you've got the base level. And of course, you're still getting the trickle down clout here in the base level, but it's significantly diluted. It's more diluted at that point. That's why it's really best to be in the elite tier. But it's not, everyone in the community, you know, has access to this kind of clout benefits. What should I say to my family that might not support my new lifestyle? Well, the thing is, St. Lotus, these are toxic people, okay? And, like, I think if it's a crime for me to tell you to cut off contact with toxic people in your life, oh, well, lock me up. Lock me up. Oh, I think it's bad for you to have toxic people in your life telling you who you can and can't associate with. That's supposed to be normal. That's someone you want to have a relationship with. Someone that tells you who you can and can't talk to, spend time with, gift subscriptions to, whatever. So, yeah, I think that's an important thing. If people are saying, what is this community you're a part of? I don't think this is good. I think it's good that you're doing this. Well, you know, that's toxicity. It's not just a System of a Down album, okay? So I should isolate myself from my toxic social circle and get more integrated into the triangle-shaped tiered reward system. Exactly. Yes. Exactly. You get it. See, it's easy. It's very easy to understand. They're suppressive persons. That's exactly right. I'm glad people understand what this community is all about. This wholesome community. So before we move on, are there any final takers that would like to support this program? Are there any more takers? Hello? Hello, McFly? Hello? Okay. Well, we can, we're going to keep working on that. We're going to keep working on that. We've got 20 subs to go, about another hour and a half to go at least. We're going to keep working on that. And 9 subs away to get back to the 600 level, which I keep kind of like getting to and then dipping below afterwards. Okay, so back to the subject at hand. Thanks for everyone for indulging me. I'm really happy my Quebec Excellence post is going a little viral. I'm glad that that's finding an audience. Let's actually do this one more time because I really like this. I'm glad it's getting some engagement here.
Huh?
Chat, oui.
Ça, ça traîne là. C'est quoi ça? Tabarnak!
Ramasse-les comme faut, tu sais.
Tabarnak, c'est quoi ça? Tiens.
Ben là, pas.
Ah ben, tabarnak. Ben, sacrement!
Qu'est-ce
Toi
que
qui as mis ça là?
Ben non, tu j'entraînais là.
Oh, du calice! On casse un coup de pied, c'est cette affaire, là. Ben, tabarnak.
Ben là, pas. Moi, c'est pas à moi, j'entraînais là.
C'est qui,
tu sais,
ça?
je le sais pas.
Asti! Calice de ticket!
Oh, il y en a un autre.
Tabarnak! Mon
C'est ça.
arrête de me niaiser, asti! Pas ça, c'est que gosse-là de calice.
Love that guy. Absolutely love that guy. What are those? I guess they're like tiny little, they're little ducks. It's like kind of like a duck, like a Russian nesting doll kind of thing. Kalis, exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. What's the translation on Kalis? It's chalice. As I've talked about before, all Quebec swearing is church based. So Kalis is the chalice. There's tabarnak is like the tabernacle. Sacrement, you know. The hostie is like the host. It's the host. It's like the host that you eat when you like eat Jesus' body or whatever. Eat his flesh. What a weird religion, actually, you know? I don't totally get it, honestly. But yeah, that's what it is. But I love it. As I was saying before, I mean, Chris, yeah, obviously that's there, but there's a direct kind of English translation to that. As I was saying before, I love swearing in Quebec French. I don't, like, I'm an Anglophone, like I don't speak French that often, but sometimes it's just, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like a Quebec curse word. It's the multiplier effect. You can just add on and on. Oh, exactly. And there's infinite variety. There's infinite variations. And then you can get into the saints as well if you want to get really kind of like niche with it. Saint Simonac and that kind of stuff. All kinds of saints. And you can just layer it all together. Sacrement tabarnak kalis. It's just great. It's just so fun to do. White people think tacos too spicy. So I'm thinking about what to do next. Let me take a look at some maybe videos. I do want to talk about this like COINTELPRO campaign to create this like fissure between Black Americans and Palestinians. This whole like anti-Black Palestinian thing, and now they're going back and forth. How dare you tell us not to support Kamala Harris because of Gaza, and this kind of very fake coordinated campaign to kind of create this rift that just reeks like a op. It's like it reeks of psyop, you know? And I do kind of want to get into this. Trump 2024 reminds me of Hillary 2016. Tone is off, vibes are wrong, emails get hacked. For sure, yeah, it's got, and I don't know if I would describe Hillary's campaign in 2016 as having the stench of death around it, but Trump certainly does right now. Okay. Okay, let me find something here. Yeah, I think we should just go right into this kind of thing. I mean, I guess this can all be part of the America Declines discourse. I think first maybe we should watch a Hezbollah video just to kind of like as a little palate cleanser. You know, there's been some spicy takes, and now we can do a little palate cleanser. Hezbollah video, which of course, as a terrorist group, I'm not watching this. Obviously, I'm not watching this in like an approving way. Can you imagine? I'm not watching it in an approving way. But I just wanted to put on this like latest Hezbollah video that just dropped, so we can be upset by it and say, these guys again. For news purposes, that's exactly right. Our mountains are our treasures. I agree, HTA. I agree.
تمتلك من سلاح ومن عتاد ومن إمكانات ومن عديد ومن كادر ومن قدرة ومن خبرات ومن تجارب وأيضا من إيمان ومن عزم ومن شجاعة ومن إرادة هي أقوى من أي زمان مضى منذ انطلاقتها في هذه المنطقة.
This is crazy too, because it's like when you see the kind of content that they're putting out, these are the actual like underground tunnel command centers that Israel was pretending that Hamas had in Gaza with all their like fake G.I. Joe bullshit. But it's like Hezbollah does actually have some shit. They've got this vast like tunnel network in these mountains.
عنا واحداثيتها موجودة عندنا وهي الصواريخ محطوط ومنصوب وفي سرية ممتازة جدا.
It's very upsetting to watch them drive a motorcycle through a cave. I agree. Totally agree. Is very upsetting and not cool as hell. I think there's more. There's more. We better check out all of it. Just to be clear about how bad it is. I get the impulse to flex, but why not keep all this under your hat? I don't know. I think it's having the desired effect, this kind of stuff. I mean, that's the whole thing with the restraint that's been shown with like Iran, and like they were attacked by Israel on a number of levels. Their officials in Damascus and a Hamas official in Tehran. So they've been very, very deliberate about that response and very measured, and it's having an effect of keeping people like in Israel. It seems like pretty scared. It seems like in this heightened sense of like we're going to be attacked at any time. They're all fleeing. They're all like paranoid. They're going to be attacked at any time. I think it is kind of effective on that front.
وباتت المقاومة تملك من الصواريخ الدقيقة وغير الدقيقة ومن الإمكانيات التسليحية ما إذا فرضت إسرائيل على لبنان حربا ستواجه إسرائيل مصيرا وواقعا لم تتوقعه في يوم من الأيام. المعركة معنا شعاعها على طول فلسطين المحتلة، من الحدود اللبنانية إلى الحدود الأردنية إلى البحر الأحمر، من كريات شمونة إلى إيلات.
Anyway, just watching this for news purposes to break down what's happening. And, I'm not going to sit here and watch these kinds of videos and be like, oh, it would be cool if they invaded Tel Aviv. Like, I'm not going to say that, obviously, and I know no one in the chat's going to say that because we don't think that, because that would be obviously a terrible outcome. So I just wanted to watch that video just very quickly. Just so we know, like, it's in the news, right? It's important. It's valid. Israel does always often seem to be kind of like promoting this possible war in Lebanon. So, we got to look at what the possible response to that would be. Okay, so let's look at some of this, like, COINTELPRO discourse trying to divide Black Americans and Palestinians. This is the main tweet that I want, but I think there's like a lot of shit. Oh no. It seems like they've gone on private. Oh man. Shit. Maybe I can find it on TikTok. Ms. Menopause on TikTok. But here's where it started though, okay? It seems like they've gone on private now. So there's been a lot of this kind of discourse over the last couple of days. And I think it's like really sinister the way these narratives kind of start. And it's very deliberate, it's very intentional. And we're seeing these nonstop images of horror and violence coming out of Gaza. And the way this discourse gets propped up, anti-blackness in the Palestinian community gets propped up, because there's a threat. There's a real threat that these struggles, the struggle of Black Americans living in the United States and Palestinians, there's a real threat that these struggles are going to be connected. And a lot of revolutionary figures in both Palestine and the United States throughout the years have made that kind of connection. They've made that link because they recognize that these struggles are linked. And there's right now, as we're seeing this horrific violence and ongoing atrocities, genocide, mass murder of children, all of a sudden this discourse pops up. I think it's one thing, I was thinking about this earlier, like as long as I've been doing this kind of work and, podcasting, media criticism, talking about the news, whatever, I've always been really fascinated with what's the news of the day, and then what's the discourse that pops up right after. And noticing the difference between these two things, I think is something that's really interesting. And it's not just about this. You see this all the time. Anytime there is a kind of discourse, it's always something comes out of left field to like completely undermine it. You see this time and time again. Yeah, and so this account that posted this like K-Hive account was created in October 2023 and has over 70,600 tweets under their belt. That's over 227 tweets per day. October 2023 was when it was created. And it was this account. It's me, y'all. Dateline fam. You thought you were slick throwing in the apartheid bullshit. There is no apartheid. There's no genocide. There's only genocidal intent with Hamas and the people of Palestine who support them, including here in the USA. Stay out of my mentions. I'm out of fucks to give. Says this absolutely real account. This very, very real account. And like, look at this shit. Yeah, they've gone protected now. October 2023. Tulsa native 4th generation U.S. Army of Cav first IDDS veteran. My daughter is the 5th gen. Dateline aficionado. Veteran against Trump. It's still fuck Bernie. So it's that like that K-Hive like fake AstroTurf thing. And now they're kind of sow this kind of discord between Black Americans and Palestinians. Let me see if I can find the video that they were posting. They were like, oh, you've pissed off the elders. You've pissed off the elders, they said. Here's this account, Ms. Menopause on TikTok. Has been doing all kinds of this stuff.
Race in fucking America has oppressed us. Black people also wear a uniform and get on a plane and come to our countries and kill us. Every fucking race in fucking America has oppressed us. Black people also wear a uniform and get on a plane and come to our countries and kill us.
And like this is not a controversial statement that black people can become part of the empire, part of the imperialist violence, Like this is not a controversial statement. The fact that black Americans can become part of that empire and go into places like Korea or Vietnam, or Iraq or Palestine, the idea that this is somehow some kind of like racist statement. This is some example of anti-blackness in the Palestinian community, correctly pointing out that people of all races can become part of this like imperialist death machine that is currently committing genocide against them, against their people. Like this is not something that's new. It's not a new phenomenon.
Please don't determine your association with the Palestinian cause on whether you like us as creators. You may not agree or like one creator, but that creator is not the cause. So don't let them determine whether you care and support Palestine.
You all need to stop talking. You all need to just stop talking. Because you're not listening. And the more you all talk, the more you reveal this inner cruelty in yourselves that is quite fucking disgusting. And the level of privilege.
The privilege.
That you are taking from marginalized people.
The privileged against marginalized people.
Exactly what you say you despise.
Using this kind of like yeah, very liberal kind of TED Talk therapy language about it, you know?
Because you are making this video telling us that these Palestinian creators, who are not in Palestine, by the way, are just going to talk their shit.
No, it's just their families that are being
We need
killed.
to accept it and understand that that has nothing to do with the actual Palestinians who are in danger. Instead of you talking to us, you need to remember your own cause.
I don't want to watch this whole thing. I'm trying to find the video specifically that was like, but this is the kind of discourse, basically. Like, this is the kind of discourse that has been going on. I don't know exactly the video that was in that original tweet. Can I find it? It's still, I have like a, she's wearing yellow glasses. Wearing yellow glasses, and she's doing some kind of a stitch. That was the video that was being shared there. This person really posts a lot. It was this. Here's this one that I was talking about.
Due diligence and pressure her into changing her policy on Israel.
Well. I understand you giving some of my sisters a hard way to go in a short time to get there. You know, you repeatedly in that video are telling women of color what to do. You might as well be standing there with a mustache, a beard, dick, balls, you know, the whole white man thing. Because that's what it's giving.
It's giving.
That's really what it's giving.
It's giving white man. These Palestinians are like, please pressure Kamala Harris to stop sending bombs to Israel while they murder little kids. It's giving white man.
We did what we could, okay? Now it's time that we handle our own business. All right? Okay? Did what we could. Now it's time to take care of us.
So this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. This has been like super prevalent. It is a little bit hard to talk about because it's like, I don't know, it gets into some thorny territory for me to mention this stuff, but there's been a lot of this kind of content on TikTok, and it's spreading to Twitter, and it's being spread by these like obviously astroturfed accounts. And it's all very deliberate, and it's happening in response to like images of like some of the worst violence that we have ever seen, some of the most horrific crimes that we've ever seen. Or there's this stuff. Okay, here's another one. This is what anti-blackness looks like, says this post here from Greg. This is what anti-blackness looks like. Okay, well, let's take a look at what that is.
American liberals don't realise that the reason that the rest of the world has to give a shit about who comes into power there is because the rest of the world suffers from America's foreign policy. But Kamala will at least improve domestic policies. She's been vice president for 4 years now. If she wanted to improve policy, she had the political influence to do so. Your country isn't shit because of a Democrat government. Liberals weaponizing anti-blackness to defend the US empire, all because they want a token ethnic president, who by the way was an ex-cop, the same people that are brutally murdering African Americans, is a choice.
100% correct.
Sit here and pretend like she cares about you or is going to do shit for ethnic minorities. Kamala is part of the system that you're fighting.
Inarguably true.
She's a sellout, just like every other token ethnic who gets into any position. American liberals don't realise that the reason
And then this is what's been going around. They've been taking these Palestinians who have been making this kind of content and saying this is what anti-blackness looks like. And some very funny comments as well. She doesn't know shit about the United States government and how it works. If she wanted to do something, she could have done it. No, we don't live in a dictatorship. There are checks and balances. Are there checks and balances to the Democratic Party administration sending billions of dollars to Israel? It doesn't seem like it. That's not getting debated in Congress or the Senate. That's literally just the United States government and the Joe Biden administration, of which Kamala Harris is the fucking vice president, sending weapons with no checks and balances, which they could stop doing at any time, which they're not doing. Yeah, look at these comments. They're crazy. Just like every other token ethnic who gets into a position of power, like the quote. So she wants no POCs in positions of power. So she's a white supremacist? Because same logic. Same logic. I don't know. I would want to check your police work there. I don't think that's totally accurate. I don't think it's a totally accurate analysis of that kind of comment. This right-wing Cope account says Kamala Harris was never a police officer. She was a prosecutor and she was a DA. That's effectively a cop. And an attorney general. Like that's effectively a cop. That's like the top cop. And she hangs out with cops and wears like cop uniforms and stuff, cop jackets. It's a cop in a suit. It's a cop in the state-sponsored legal system. The funniest part is that she's British and clearly has no idea about the power hierarchy of the executive branch. The vice president has literally no formal power. But I mean, as a presidential candidate, she could come out for an arms embargo, or she could suggest that she was going to cut off funds to Israel, which she's not doing. I don't give a fuck about her agenda. My priority is saving my country's democracy. I'm not her agenda mule. And again, we're seeing this kind of discourse. These are all like blue check accounts. Who knows how many of them are real? Like, I don't know. Maybe some of them are real. I don't doubt that many people are so immersed in this kind of discourse that they do just fully believe these things and say these things uncritically. But like, this is the discourse that we're seeing at the exact same time that we're getting footage of like headless Palestinian little kids being pulled out of rubble. And we're getting stories about Palestinian prisoners being raped and tortured in these Israeli dungeons, including children. And that's been going on for decades. And these stories are coming out. They keep coming out. And this is what the discourse is. And it's not. I don't think it's a coincidence. Right-wing Cope is a chud-dunking account, low-hanging fruit. I'm not surprised of this turn. No, I'm not either. I'm not either. So I just think it's really kind of sinister, this whole thing. And there's this whole thing, right? Someone I think pointed out the fact that in Gaza there's a George Floyd mural, because people in Gaza know, and like many black revolutionaries over the years know, that these struggles are connected. They're intricately connected. And then then this big response, this viral tweet says the store that called the police on Floyd was owned by a Palestinian guy. That's the comment to this mural in Gaza. And it's not the Palestinian guy, by the way, of that store. And indigenous struggle. You're right, Kira V. Absolutely, of course. I think it's true that a Palestinian guy owned the store, PM Trio, but who wasn't there on that day and didn't call the police on George Floyd in the first place. So it's just a completely meaningless statement. And then she posts this: "Don't assume my position, you welfare-addicted UN prostitutes. I do not stand with Israel. I do not stand with Palestine." Oh, what a brave stance. What an absolutely brave stance on that one. Anyway, this apparently is a really good explainer. So let's check this out.
Feet kicked up, twirling their hair. Just happening to say that the CIA is scrolling on their phone on their belly with their feet kicked up, twirling their hair.
It's COINTELPRO.
Watching y'all do their work for them.
Absolutely.
Dear God. Hey. They is giggling.
It's COINTELPRO.
Watching y'all do the work of destroying Black and Palestinian solidarity all by yourselves. Let me preface everything I'm about to say by saying it does not matter whether Palestinians are anti-Black or not. They don't deserve to be genocided. You know? Black and Palestinian solidarity goes all the way back to the Civil Rights Movement. Whether it is Malcolm X's views on Palestinian liberation, whether it's the Black Panther Party that 60% of Black people said they were proud of at the time, or 46% of Black people also said the Black Panther Party represented their values and their views. These people were anti-imperialist and they were pro-Palestinian liberation. And it's because the same school of thought that says that Black people deserve to die because of insert bullshit reason here is the same school of thought that
Absolutely,
is
yeah,
bringing
drippy
y'all
shits.
to say that because Palestinians are quote unquote anti-Black, we shouldn't care about their lives. It's the same mindset and it's sick. Culture influences politics. It is not a mistake that they are literally putting into the cultural understanding that Palestinians do not deserve solidarity because they know that our solidarity as Black and Palestinian people is powerful and it is threatening to U.S. hegemony, period. If we live in a world where it is okay to literally exterminate a marginalized group of people, then not a single marginalized person on this earth stands a chance against the empire, period. Your rights cannot be built on the backs of the suffering of other people because at the end of the day, as long as those people are dehumanized, so are we. As long as those people are not free, we are not living in a liberated society, period. This is the last little thing I'm going to say. But y'all are more mad at people that are advocating against genocide than y'all are about the actual institutions and systems of fascism that this country is built upon. Hillary Clinton did not lose the 2016 election because of people voting for third parties. She lost because of the Electoral College. Did not lose the 2016 election because of people voting for third parties. She lost because of the Electoral College. Homelessness did not get criminalized out of thin air. That was because of the Supreme Court. Women's rights, Supreme Court. Everything else that we've seen during this Democratic administration has been because of the fascist institutions that this country is built upon. And the Democratic administration did nothing to mitigate any of those harms, period. Because they're building 60 cop cities across the country. And those cop cities will also cross-train with the Israeli occupation forces.
And often these, like in Atlanta, these cop cities are being built in cities primarily controlled by Democrats, and in cases like Atlanta, Black Democrats. So it's really important to point this out, the way that Black people can be tools of the empire and can participate in these systems of oppression that oppress everybody, including Black people. Like this is not a concept that should be that difficult to understand, that like fascism, white supremacy can have foot soldiers of all kinds of different cultures and races and genders and sexual orientations and whatever. Like, it should not be controversial to ever talk about this, but it becomes this like this topic of discourse. It becomes this like controversial subject, and then this discourse happens while the United States government is arming and funding this like brutal genocidal campaign.
Those are your tax dollars. That's going to be going to that. The same system that killed Sonia Massey is the same exact system of oppression that is killing Palestinians right now. That's how linked our struggles are. That's how interconnected our struggles are. So as long as y'all continue to do the work of the CIA, as long as y'all continue to put nationalism above solidarity, above humanity, we are going to continue to be oppressed. Period.
That was a great video, and I appreciate her making that video. I'm just trying to put something together here. If you'll just give me 1 second. There's something that I've been kind of interested in, you know. This. I think there's like there's something I always noticed about this. About here, I want to show you 2 images. And that you know, we can talk all about like, you know, this sort of like theoretical ways that, you know, the struggle of Black Americans and the struggle of Palestinians are two struggles that are completely linked, and that these are 2 communities that should have deep solidarity with one another. But I was really interested in this. Like, this is this image from the Great March of Return, iconic image from the Great March of Return, and then you got this image from the Ferguson protests, and this man was, of course, killed. One of many Ferguson protesters, radical activists that were murdered in mysterious circumstances. And I always just thought it was interesting. It's not the exact same, obviously, but the way that these 2 images really evoke the same kind of like feeling. You know, these are people struggling against a really powerful occupying force in their communities. And these people don't know each other. You know, these are 2 different places. They're 2 different systems. But I find it kind of fascinating, you know? It's kind of you get a visual sense of the way that these struggles for liberation against the forces of fascism, the forces of white supremacy, whatever you want to call it, are just intricately linked. And yeah, of course, like as I was saying, this man, Edward Crawford, who was in this iconic picture in his American flag shirt, throwing this this canister of tear gas or whatever it is during these protests. One of many Ferguson activists that were killed in mysterious circumstances while we're talking about COINTELPRO. One of many. One of many, i.e., way too many to ever possibly be a coincidence. Covered up by the guy who beat Cori Bush. Wow, it kind of says it all right there, doesn't it? Kind of says it all right there. Anyway, that's all I want to talk about this. That's all I wanted to talk about this discourse. I just find it like it's so sinister when you see these kind of like discourse topics pop up, and when they pop up, and like what the purpose of it is. Just remind folks again before we move on to the next thing. Please subscribe if you can. Trying to get to those daily sub goals this week. That's a little number at the bottom of the screen. If you do enjoy this program, please do subscribe and help support the show. It's the only way that I can keep the show on the air is if people subscribe. So please, if you can, do that. It's very, very helpful. I appreciate it a lot. And we become friends when you subscribe to this show. We become friends, and it's not parasocial. It's very real. It's a very real friendship. If you're in Australia, the number's at the top of your screen. Exactly. I should make that clear to people. Did you see this? What's this? Here's Valerie Plante talking about the water main thing. I hope this doesn't have any big consequences.
The break in the water main is creating this essentially a geyser
Yeah, we
of
saw this
water
earlier on.
in the street there.
This is crazy.
Flooding the local streets. We know that electricity has been shut off preemptively in the area to make sure that emergency services can do what they need to do
You can
in
count
the
on me. You're
area.
gonna
They
have
need
good
to
old
close
Rob
off the
to
valves,
talk you
and
through all
residents
this.
in
Thank
the
you,
area
Vile,
are
for the 2
being
months of
told
Prime.
not to drink the water right now. There is a boil water advisory. They're also being told to avoid the area.
Follow the different instruction. There's ribbons that says like don't go in, and even if there's no water, please.
Where is this happening? It's happening in Montreal, on the other side of the city from where I am.
Cars have been flooded, you know, in terms of just how high the water reached. There are
You can
people's
count on
homes
me.
that have been
You're gonna
flooded.
have good old
Hundreds of people
Rob
right
to
now
talk you through
are
all this.
dealing with that, which is, you know, extremely chaotic for a Friday morning, considering some of them are also
You
dealing
can count
with the
on me. You're
aftermath
gonna have good
of
old
massive
Rob
flooding
to
a
talk
week
you
and a
through
half
all
ago.
this.
The break in the
That
water
seems
main
bad.
is creating this essentially a
Seems bad. Comrade Bushy, thanks for the gifted sub. Thank you,
You
Tropical
can count on me.
One,
You're
for the
gonna have
gifted
good
sub as well.
old
Very
Rob
first
to,
gifted
talk you
sub
through
in the
all
chat
this.
from Tropical One. Thank you for that. Very first gifted sub. We love to see it. Thank you for
can
that.
count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to
Why are
talk you
there-
through all this.
Not Another Bean Stain as well. Thank you for the 12 months of Prime. That is 1 entire year. Congratulations to you for the 1 year sub badge as well. Isn't 11 a.m. too early for street shawarma? No, that's lunchtime. 11 a.m. counts as
We
lunchtime.
simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Best cool summer for you and Venom and Little Momo.
Is Red Scary in Canada committing infrastructure crimes? Well, we don't know that she's not. We certainly don't know that she's not. We can't say that no, she isn't. She's here hanging out with me. Okay, well, we don't know where you are, though. It's a watertight alibi. Oh, my. And thanks, Diego, for the 200 bits as well. And hello, Dakadude. The kindness of strangers is real. Thank you very much. We're only strangers till we're not. Well, the thing is, spread kindness hurt her? Kind of contradictory, maybe. Thank you for that nice sentiment. And we are all friends now because we are all part of the same community known as the Friendship Triangle community. So thank you for that. I don't know you weirdos, says Red Wizard. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You do know. You do know us. It's not a cult. See, Tropical gets it already. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Tropical, that's how generous Tropical is, who just gifted a sub before subscribing to the channel themselves. Look at that. That's called generosity. And I do hope that someone reimburses Tropical with a sub as well. They already understand the whole dynamic of the community. If someone can come through with a gifted sub for Tropical, I think that would be fantastic. Even more Christ-like than Anon, exactly. Oh, you lurk a lot. Okay, that's good to know. Because you're coming right in with the lingo already. You get the whole thing. You get the whole vibe already. Oh, further.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Further, excuse me. And thank you, Sam, for gifting a sub. Very cool. I appreciate it, Sam. I appreciate all the support. Meanwhile, in Toronto, is this good? Yeah. Doesn't look so great. I don't think buildings are supposed to do that. In my understanding, I'm not an engineer.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old
I'm not an
Rob
engineer or
to talk you
anything.
through all this.
Thank you, Diego, for the gifted sub. That's fine. And now only 14 subs away from the goal. We're getting there, folks. We're getting there.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
The order in which you subscribe determines where you sit in the throne room of Rob Heaven.
Thank you, Pry Bars, for these 17 months of Prime. Thank you for that. It's like one of those Murphy beds, that's right. Folds right back in there. I'm an expert on buildings, and buildings only do that when they're sad because of redlining from wealthy NIMBYs that keep millions from being housed and fed for no real reason other than to protect their investments. That's right. Yes. Did you see the psycho terrorist settlers attack set that home on fire in the West Bank? Actually, I was told, Old Dutch, that it's just Netanyahu is the one bad guy in this scenario. Once you get rid of Netanyahu, then everything gets better. You just got to get rid of this one guy. He's the linchpin to the whole deal. You get rid of him and everyone's going to be nice to each other again. There's one bad apple, that's right. Pay no attention to the West Bank pogroms that have been ongoing. Let's look at this video here. I think it's time to look at some video clips. We got a breakthrough news piece just came out yesterday. We've been wondering, like, when this Iranian response is going to come. You know, sometimes it's been maybe a little bit even frustrating for people. And I'm interested in looking at this video with Brian Becker and Mohammed Marandi from the University of Tehran. Should be interesting to answer some of these questions.
We need a new system. Up into a widespread, large-scale regional war after the Israeli government assassinated senior leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah. Welcome to the Socialist Program. I'm your host, Brian Becker. Today we're talking with Professor Mohammed Marandi. Mohammed is a professor at Tehran University. He's an expert on American studies. Mohammed, welcome back.
Take care, Colonel, but thanks for hanging out.
Thank you very much for having me.
Mohammed, I'm looking at the Wall Street Journal today. It says, in Israel, support grows for offensive against Hezbollah. So some part of the Israeli establishment and apparently the Israeli population prefers to have a war with Lebanon. Anyway, this all follows the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, the senior Hamas leader who was the negotiator on the Gaza war. He was murdered the day or the night he attended the presidential inauguration in your country in Iran. Obviously,
you can count on me. You're gonna have good old
Israeli
Rob
government
to talk you
was
through
trying
all
to
this.
Weenus, thanks for the gifted sub. Appreciate you, Weenus. Thank you for that.
provoke something or send a message. And the whole world is waiting right now to see whether Iran and Hezbollah will respond. Will Iran respond?
Iran will definitely respond. It has no option but to respond. If the Iranians show restraint, then the Israeli regime will carry out another attack in future and kill more people. And that will be unacceptable to ordinary Iranians. And then we're going to have to hit the Israeli regime even harder. So it's best to strike the regime and create deterrence now.
He is on a lot of YouTube
when
streams, but you know what? I enjoy his analysis, and I'm happy. I think he's, when you're talking about Iran, I think he's a good person to be listening to.
Israeli regime bombed the Iranian consulate in Damascus and murdered 12 people. The Iranians
We'll see about that, Venus.
retaliated because they had no option back then either. If the Iranians had not struck the Israeli regime, the Israelis would have bombed more embassies. And especially when we saw how in April, after the strike on the Iranian embassy, the Iranians took the matter to the UN Security Council, and the Americans, the British, the French, they supported the Israeli regime, and so did the Germans. In other words, they supported the bombing of the Iranian embassy. So when the
don't
West
believe you.
is supporting a Holocaust, when the West is supporting the bombing of embassies, when it's supporting the bombing of neighboring countries like Lebanon, there's really no option left but to defend your sovereignty through your own strength.
When the Israelis bombed the diplomatic compound of Iran that led to that retaliation a few months ago, it was pretty quick. It was within a few days, but now weeks have passed, or a couple of weeks have passed since the targeted killing of Hania, again, in Iran, in an Iranian building, clearly violating Iranian sovereignty, not only an act of international lawlessness in terms of targeted assassinations, but violating Iran's sovereignty. But still, there's this feeling that something big is about to happen. But I would have said a week ago, something big was about to happen a week ago, but it hasn't happened. What's the calculation?
There are many calculations, I'm sure, but a part of it is psychological warfare. And part of it is political calculations. Iran wants to make the Israeli regime wait. It causes a lot of damage to the economy. Flights to and from Tel Aviv have stopped for the most part, and there are other problems that have been created for Israeli society as a result of this wait as well. Also, the Iranians want to speak to all of their neighbors, their friends, their allies, to make sure that they understand the situation, that this is not an escalation that's being carried out by Iran or that's being brought about by Iran. This is an escalation that the Israeli regime has brought about, and the Iranians are responding. The Iranians want their friends and neighbors to understand that the United States, Britain, France, Germany, they are encouraging the Israeli regime to carry out these strikes because when they do, they condemn Iran. We saw a joint statement by the US, France, England, and the Italians where they spoke of Iranian aggression right after the murder of
Well, if you think it's been stressful for you, Sam, it's been stressful for people in Tel Aviv as well.
This is the upside-down world that the West has created for the international community. And the Iranians need to make sure that everyone recognizes what sort of disinformation the Americans, Western media, Western diplomats, Western politicians are spreading, and to respond adequately so that if there is an escalation, if the Israeli regime does the foolish thing and strikes again and expands the war, then people know who caused this catastrophe and what countries are responsible.
Well, let's talk about psychological war a little bit more, because obviously all sides are engaged in some psychological maneuvering in any military confrontation or the run up to a military confrontation. I mentioned in the beginning this Wall Street Journal article. It's today. It's as we're speaking. It came out a couple hours ago. In Israel, support grows for an offensive attack against Hezbollah. Now, they know that this would be a big war. Obviously, Hezbollah is much stronger than it was in 2006. When the Israelis failed to realize their military objectives in that war between Lebanon and Israel, started by the Israeli regime. Israel killed a lot of people in Lebanon. They used anti-personnel weapons, cluster bombs, which are war crimes inherently.
Was that when Ronald Reagan cut them off?
But they didn't succeed. But here you have this article saying, yeah, we're ready. We're ready to go. We're getting ready. And then they make the point in the article that the only thing that the Israelis are waiting for is for Hezbollah or Iran to strike first, and then the Israelis can camouflage their war with Lebanon as a defensive reaction. So get the other guy to shoot first, basically.
Classic imperialist
essentially the
tactic.
same line the U.S. used when it massively invaded Korea in 1950. It said, "Oh, the North Koreans shot first."
Similar with
then the
Ukraine
US
as
went in
well.
and carpet bombed the whole country.
Oh, Putler invaded Ukraine. Why did he do that? Just for no reason at all. We had nothing to do with it. But I guess we got to have NATO fund this counteroffensive now, though. That we have no choice. We have no choice. There's countless examples of this.
Anyway, I want to get your thoughts. Is this Wall Street Journal article reflecting a real thing, or is it too part of psychological warfare?
The Western media in general is on the side of the Israelis, and they, as we all know, are hiding the Holocaust in Gaza. They are justifying the Israelis. All of these media outlets, if you recall, I'm sure you recall, on October the 7th and after October the 7th, they were repeating the lies about beheaded babies and rapes. But now, when we're seeing so many Palestinian children being beheaded by Israeli bombs, and while we're seeing so many Palestinians in prison being raped, we see utter indifference to these very racist media outlets. So the Wall Street Journal, I believe, has zero credibility when it comes to this. This is not going to deter Hezbollah, nor is it going to deter Iran. Hezbollah is already at war with the Israeli regime, and the Israelis have failed, just as they failed in Gaza. And I think the Israeli regime knows quite well that if they cannot win in Gaza, they definitely cannot win an expanded war with Hezbollah. Hezbollah is far more powerful than
It seems like it's
Hamas and
been months
Islamic
they've been trying to
Jihad and
expand
other
this
groups
regional
in
war.
Palestine combined. And Hezbollah has far more advanced weapons. And on the other hand, Iran is much more powerful than the Israeli regime. The only thing that keeps this war machine in Tel Aviv running is constant help from the United States and Europe. They constantly provide ammunition, new weapons, financial support, political cover, and that's why they continue to fight. Otherwise, the war would have been over a long time ago. The genocide would have been over a long time ago. The Europeans
And drag us in.
Americans,
Exactly. That's the whole
the
point.
Western media, Western
Because they know they can't win
politicians,
themselves, obviously.
and Western elites and diplomats, all of them are a part of this genocide. They've all played their role in helping the Israeli regime carry out this genocide. And it is really unforgivable what they've done. But as I said, this has no impact on the ground. The Iranians will respond, and Hezbollah will respond.
One of the things that's happening, at least, Mohammed, here in the United States, we've been organizing massive protests almost every day, since October 8th, since the Israeli genocide started against the people of Gaza. We had a major disruption of Netanyahu's speech on July 24th when he came and disgracefully spoke before both houses of Congress. The police were out there, unlike January 6th, the police in front of the Capitol, they were attacking us, they were beating people, they were pepper spraying people, they were arresting people. And since then, the protests have been completely demonized in the media. All the Republicans are calling for congressional investigations against the organizers, saying, this terrible thing happened on July 24th, when in fact the protesters were the victims of police violence. Again, another indication of a media world that's turned basically upside down, where the victim is made out to be the victimizer. But inside this movement, there's lots of discussion that the Iranians have held back, or Hezbollah has held back from retaliating because there's behind the scenes negotiations going on, and that Iran is prepared to possibly not retaliate or retaliate in a minor way in exchange for a U.S. brokered peace deal in Gaza. That's a lot of people are talking about this, and I want to get your take on it. And then yesterday, the White House announced that they've authorized the sale of $20 billion more in arms to the Israeli government. So then if you think like the U.S. is really putting a lot of pressure on Israel, on Netanyahu to stop the killing spree in Gaza, to come to the table, and that they're working hard behind the scenes with Iran and the Lebanese, even the people who are their adversaries, to make this.
What was worse, Parliament standing ovation for Hunka or Congress standing ovation for Bibi? It's actually a good question. I don't even know how to answer, because they were both really like grotesque and illustrative in like different but still kind of similar ways. It's hard to say. Maybe the Bibi thing is worse. I think with Hunka, even though I don't believe it, maybe there's like a small degree of plausible deniability of people that weren't paying attention. Like, oh, there's a guy. Yeah, clap. Maybe that. Even though I think that's a stretch, because they were like, he fought the Soviets in World War II, as we covered, And And that should be clear to anyone who knows anything about history, like what that means. But, you know, if he was an ongoing current war criminal right now, I think, like, at least the latter was a lot of seat fillers. That's true. But I mean, he still gets invited to the U.S. Congress to speak. So, and there's plenty of Congress people there.
I want to get your thoughts. Is this real? What's your view of all of this?
Obviously, this $20 billion sale is not really a sale. The Israeli regime doesn't have $20 billion to give. These are all gifts that the U.S. government is going to be giving to the Israeli regime, and the money is going to be is going to come out of the American taxpayers' pocket without a doubt. The Iranians know quite well that the United States is not sincere. It's not an honest broker. The United States is a part of this Holocaust. This Holocaust is being carried out with U.S. support. The U.S. President, the Secretary of State, the whole of the Senate and Congress, they're all a part of this. They're all partners in crime. So nothing that they say really matters. Obviously, Iran supports a permanent ceasefire that meets the needs of the Palestinians, that is acceptable to Hamas and the resistance, and Iran will support that. But Iran will strike at Israel. There's no doubt about that. There's no going back. The Israeli regime carried out a strike on Iran, violated the country's sovereignty, murdered a high-ranking official, a foreign official, and a close friend of Iran, and they murdered him in a guest house, in an official guest house where foreign leaders stay in. Foreign presidents, foreign prime ministers, foreign ministers, and special envoys. It is a well-known building. So the Israelis insulted the dignity and the honor of the Iranian people for murdering their guest while that guest was in Tehran. There's no way that the Israeli regime will escape that. In addition, in its strike on Beirut, the Israelis targeted a civilian building. They targeted the capital, and that was a red line. So if Iran or Hezbollah do not respond, that is only going to make this rogue regime more aggressive. So there's really no escape for the regime. There's no escape for the Americans and the Europeans. The regime has to be punished. And if the Americans and the Europeans don't want a regional war or further escalation, then they should yank hard on the leash of Netanyahu.
All right, I want to talk to you, Mohammed, now especially for Americans to understand the mood in Tehran. You had a recent election. Again, in the US, the media says, oh, Iran is an autocratic regime, it's a dictatorship, and yet you have regular elections, they're highly contested. People from different political trends take turns, basically, in terms of who's the head of government, depending on the election outcome. In other words, you have a democratic system. It's an Iranian democratic system. It's not the same as the US, where right now my friends who are running as independent socialists are being legally challenged in state after state by the Democratic Party trying to evict third-party candidates. The anti-genocide candidates are trying to be evicted. So, that's different. That's American democracy. And these are people who have met all of the standards to be on. But I want to talk about the mood in Iran. When you strike a foreign official, a guest of the government, on the day that he's there welcoming or commemorating the inauguration of the new president of Iran, it just seems that it would have to have this amazing impact on public consciousness. I got a CNN clip that
as soon as you
right
just
after,
let World War III get going, the leash will be yanked.
Because I want Americans to see, I want Americans to hear what you are feeling, you meaning collectively you, the Iranian people. But first, let's play the CNN clip, and just for people in America to get a sense of what this assassination meant.
You very much have a region on the edge, Jessica. People waiting with bated breath to see what the response, what retaliation will look like. If I can just pull up those images again of this massive funeral procession, this massive service held in Tehran today with Ismail Hania's casket being carried through the crowds right in the main city center. And I want to show you those pictures once more because there is a message in those images from Tehran. Iran is clearly saying you did not just kill Hania, because remember they are accusing Israel, which has neither confirmed nor denied this assassination. It is saying you have messed with Iran at large. You have violated the sovereignty of this country, and Iran's supreme leader has vowed to fight back, to retaliate.
It's unusual that there's any kind of even sense in the tone and tenor of objectivity. But anyway, let's talk about the mood in Tehran that day and since.
Well, you saw the funeral, perhaps. Millions of people went to the streets of Tehran. And that was for not an Iranian public figure. That was for a Palestinian public figure. So you can understand the outrage that exists in Tehran. As I was saying earlier, this was an insult not just
It's
to
crazy to
Iranian
think that you
honor
can just
and
do this
dignity,
and there's not going to be
but
some kind of
also a very
response.
close friend of the Iranian people. Ismail Haniyeh is considered to be a martyr in Iran. He fought for the freedom of his people who've been under subjugation since 1948 officially, not just in Gaza and the West Bank, but throughout Palestine. These are people in Gaza are largely exiles from their homes in Palestine. The same is true in the West Bank, and the same is true for the millions of Palestinians living in refugee camps in Syria, in Lebanon, in Jordan, and Palestinians who are living across the world in exile. So there's really no way for the Israeli regime to escape. The United States and the Europeans, they cannot speak about fearing escalation when they are the cause of escalation. They are the ones who are enabling this Holocaust. They are the ones who are enabling the bombing of Lebanon, the bombing of Syria. The bombing of Syria has been going on for years, yet the West does not say anything. For them, it's fine for the Israelis to bomb Syria whenever they want.
But Assad bad, though.
The attack on an Iranian embassy building, something that's never happened before in the history of modern diplomacy. Only once did the United States bomb the Chinese embassy, killing 3 people in Yugoslavia or Serbia. And the Americans said it was a mistake, even though no one believes it. But in this case, the Israeli regime used 2 fighter jets to level the Iranian consulate building, killing 12 people, and the West supports it. So they cannot come to Iran and complain about Iran's so-called potential, as they put in their statement. Or when they carried out the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, they did it in an official guest house, a guest house where presidents and prime ministers stay in. Other officials were in that guest house during the inauguration, and they did it, as you pointed out, right after the inaugural ceremony, where Ismail Haniyeh he hugged the president. This was a personal insult to the Iranian president. But with regards to Iranian freedom and democracy, there's always this paradox in the West. They choose a narrative that suits their purpose. One day, I recall in a couple of decades ago, when they wanted to antagonize Ahmadinejad, they said he's a threat to the world. Whereas on another occasion, they'll say that the president has no authority. Well, if a president has no authority, then how could an Iranian president be a threat to the world? These contradictions in narrative show that they are completely dishonest. Whatever they say about Iran, in Iran, there's more diversity and more debate in politics. And there's more openness in politics than in the United States. In the United States, people's choices between Trump and Clinton, Trump and Harris, Trump and Biden. If that's democracy, well, then I think we should just move on to some other means of governance.
I want to ask your opinion.
I like he always gets a little cheeky
and this is
smile
also
when he's making a
perplexing for
point
lot
like
of people
that.
in the United States. A lot of people think, like, why is the United States so tied to the hip with the Israeli regime? I mean, you have hundreds of millions of
And like we were
Arabs.
talking about yesterday, this question, I think is going to be interesting because this is what leads people to incorrectly get certain ideas about this relationship between Israel and the United States.
In different governments in different countries, some of them are progressive or part of the axis of resistance against imperialism. Some are collaborators, but nonetheless, even those governments, those monarchies, they can't completely ignore public opinion. It exists. And there's hundreds of millions of Arab people and other peoples in the Middle East, like people in Iran who are not Arab, and other peoples. But then you have the small Israeli state. It declares itself a
No, it's not,
theocracy, a Jewish
BM
state, meaning everybody else, it has second-class citizenship rights or no rights. Why is the U.S. so connected to the Israeli regime? Why does the U.S. government, if it wants to prevent regional wars, sending $20 billion to Israel yesterday or authorizing it? Why is the United States now sent warships into the Middle East, submarines that have huge killing capabilities? I mean, with multiple independent reentry vehicles that, one submarine can take out 20 cities. Why? And of course, there are different explanations. Some people say it's the Jewish lobby. Some people say it's an extension. Israel functions as an extension of American power in this important region. I want to get your view. Why, and the view of Iranians, are Iranians perplexed or thinking clearly, or is there a divergent opinion about why the U.S. is so fastened to the Israeli regime?
I think the Iranians know much more about the United States than people in the United States know about Iran for many reasons. English is a second language in Iran. Many people have relatives in Western countries. Many academics travel to Western countries for conferences or for sabbaticals, and many have studied there. So ignorance, the sort of ignorance that people in the United States have about Iran and elites, that is, I think, that's not the case for Iran. I wouldn't say it's the Jewish lobby. I would say it's the Zionist lobby. In Iran, we have Jews, as I'm sure you know. We have a Jewish community. We have kosher restaurants. We have synagogues. What people here are opposed to is Zionism, not Judaism. In the United States, in the West, the problem is Zionism. It's the Zionist lobby. The Zionist lobby is of course, it's comprised of Christians, Jews, and people who are secular, but it is a supremacist ideology. And they are what allows the Israeli regime to carry out these atrocities and these and the ongoing genocide in Gaza. The United States does not benefit from the existence of Israel. Have no doubt about that. There could be a case made that during the Cold War, Israel had benefits for the United States, and it used Israel to project power in our region. Now, whether that's a valid argument or not, that's debatable. I think both sides of the argument can make a case, regardless of the immorality of apartheid back then and the immorality of U.S. politics. Just like in South Africa, perhaps South Africa and Rhodesia had served purposes for the United States, but they were immoral and therefore unacceptable. Their existence, whether they did serve a purpose or not. But now there's no doubt that the Israeli regime is simply a burden. The existence of the Israeli regime is detrimental to the interests of Western regimes. The Israeli regime, all the atrocities that it's carrying out, all of the aggression that it's carrying out, is being done in the name of the West. The West has destroyed its credibility across our region, and I would argue across the global South, and even in the eyes of much of their own population in Western countries, because of their support for the Holocaust, because of their constant support for this rogue regime. Not just ordinary support, the fact that they enable these atrocities, they enable the Holocaust, they give them weapons, ammunition, funding, and political support. All of this just has destroyed the image of the West, especially over the last year, across the global South. In future, Western countries will never be able to speak about human rights. They can never speak about human rights in North Korea, let alone China or Russia or elsewhere, because everyone knows that the West is responsible for what's going on in Gaza. And it is particularly harmful for the West because this is being carried out in front of a global audience. It is being carried out live. This is the first Holocaust or genocide that people are seeing happen right in front of their eyes. And across the global South, it has a special impact because people across the global South see their own history, right? At taking when they recall their own history, they recall what they've read in their history books about their own past, about how in the 18th or 17th or 19th or 20th century Europeans or the Americans plundered their country, destroyed their countries, raped and pillaged and took away their resources. People in the subcontinent, people in East Asia, people in West Asia, across Africa, across Latin America, they see themselves. They see their ancestors or they recall their own ancestors when they see the rape of Palestinian men taking place amidst Western silence, when they see children and women being slaughtered day and night in front of the eyes of the world. So the West is being demolished. I mean, since the September the 11th and the beginning of these endless wars, the United States has quickened its decline. The wars have been a strong catalyst, and I would argue so has the neoliberalism that they engaged in after the collapse of the Soviet Union, but that's a different story. But the endless wars acted as a catalyst to bring about the decline. And I think that the war in Ukraine, being a much larger war, and the genocide in Gaza, these two combined, along with the escalation with China and other parts of the world, this is quickening the pace even further. And it is, as I said, economically, the West is on the decline. Militarily, the West is on the decline. But the only thing the West really had left, the only thing it had going for it, due to its immense media power and the impact of the legacy media, was an image, a fake image, a facade, in my opinion. But that mask has been removed because people are seeing in front of their eyes what the West is doing to Gaza. This is not just about Israel. This is about the collective West. They're the ones who are carrying out this genocide. They're the ones who are engaging in this Holocaust directly or indirectly. And I think that this is something that will be remembered for many, many years to come.
I want to pick up on that same theme with you, Mohammed. Let's go back. We can do a survey, and I think it's useful for people watching this show or listening to the podcast version of the show. You mentioned September 11th. And now that's an important marker in a way, because then the U.S. officially declared the war on terror, so-called, it's really a banner, not anything else, a slogan, but it announced a new foreign policy in the Middle East. And the U.S. immediately invaded Afghanistan. 2 years later, invaded Iraq. During the so-called Arab Spring, it launched, basically used it as a pretext to launch a war against the government in Tripoli, the Libyan government. Under the aegis of the UN, protecting civilians was the noble cause for that intervention that bombed Libya mercilessly. Then it moved on to the war against Syria, the proxy war, but a very real big war. And U.S. troops, as you mentioned, are still in Syria illegally because the Syrian government doesn't want them there. You know, the Taliban was the Taliban.
And it's also Latin America. Constantly the coup in Bolivia. Just recently, I was in Venezuela for the elections. I was I was there as an observer, like roughly 1,000 other people. And it was clear before the election that the United States was going to try to undermine the country. They were basically saying that the opposition is going to have a huge victory, and that if they don't win, it's going to be fraud. And immediately after the election, it was clear that there was going to be unrest. And then the Western media immediately after the election, they were using headlines speaking of fraud, and it reminded me of the coup in Bolivia, where after the election they immediately said it was fraud. They carried out a coup, and then they admitted later on that there was no fraud. Unfortunately, the people revolted and brought their government back to power. But the point is that the United States has undermined countries across Latin America, just as they've done in North Africa and West Asia. What they've done to Syria is what they would like to do to Venezuela. But the harm that they've done to Venezuela is enormous. They've sanctioned the people in the country. They've hurt people immensely. Many have died as a result. But ironically,
That's right,
the West is
Dakadu.
also hurting itself. All these people that are immigrating to the United States or leaving Latin America for the United States. Why are they leaving? Why are they leaving their homes? It's because their lives have been destroyed due to U.S. policy. I'm not saying everyone, but at least, without a doubt, the majority of them, for the majority of them, that's the case. And that's caused a crisis in the United States, a political crisis. The same is true in Europe. They've destroyed Libya. So you have a flood of refugees from Africa going into Europe. They brought it upon themselves. The war in Syria, they engaged in a dirty war, tried to overthrow the government. They say that President Assad killed 500,000 of his own people. It's nonsense. They killed 500,000 Syrians by creating ISIS and Al-Qaeda and Jaish al-Islam and all these other terrorist organizations.
Can you say that?
What happened though? You had millions of people leave Syria.
Can you say that? I don't think you can say
Turkey is
that.
now paying the price for supporting terrorism. Then also huge numbers went to Europe. They are paying the price for their support for ISIS and Al-Qaeda and other
I'm pretty sure you
organizations.
cannot say that.
So the United States and the Europeans, by imposing suffering on people across the world, they too are now paying the price for their own policies.
Those are excellent points. And there are, just for our viewers, 60 million people, that's the estimate, 60 million people in the world today are on the move, meaning they are refugees. They have to leave their home, either because of these wars, dislocation, economic sanctions, in some cases, climate catastrophe, but they're on the move. That's a lot of people. That's the most since the end of World War II, when all of Europe and big parts of Asia were destroyed. So you're absolutely right. And I want to go back, though, Mohammed, to one of the points that I was kind of getting at, in which you actually amplified by expanding the topic to Latin America. The U.S., in the case of the invasion of Afghanistan, the U.S. lost the war to the Taliban. And the Taliban had basically offered to surrender. They offered the U.S. through a third party to Donald Rumsfeld that they would, in exchange for amnesty, they would lay down their arms, to which Rumsfeld said, we don't negotiate with terrorists. And 20 years later, the U.S. was driven from Afghanistan, and the Taliban is now the government. So here's all of these initiatives are failure, 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 and more failure. And then all of this attendant crisis inside Western countries. Now, Obama, I think Obama, and this is where I was going with this, and I want to get your opinion on it.
And with
Obama,
the question about Lamport's asking in the chat, and I'm seeing a back and forth with Brandon and Lamport there about United States support for Israel that doesn't explain their like 100% unconditional support, even when it seems to be like detrimental. And it does seem like that right now, which again, this feeds into this idea about the United States government and who controls it. But I mean, is it a simple explanation of just saying it's like a sunk cost fallacy? Like they just can't cut the cord. They can't cut the cord. They're too ideologically linked to Israel, even when they're like tugging the whole empire into the muck with them. There's like it without that linchpin, the whole kind of coalition of these kind of vassal states starts to fall apart.
Announced the
is that it? Is it as simple as that? I don't know.
I think geostrategically, he was part of a trend within the U.S. ruling class.
Geostrategically, you got to drink when Brian Becker says that.
Wars in the Middle East, in particular, has allowed China to rise peacefully. We need to get over to the Pacific and harass and contain China, so we have to redeploy. We have to redeploy American Air Force assets and naval assets, and in fact, that's what they've done. So the U.S., according to Obama, was like, let's stop having endless war in the Middle East. And here we are 13 years later, the U.S. has sent a lot of forces to the Pacific, but it's bogged down in endless war in the Middle East. I mean, and again, you would think geostrategically, this would have made sense. Obama's position kind of made sense from the point of view of the empire, but they couldn't implement. In fact, when Trump comes in, he rips up
the last thing they want to be doing is getting bogged down in the Middle East right now. That's the whole point, right?
More crises. And Biden, who's not a Republican, not Trump, he comes in and he says, yeah, let's keep that same policy, essentially.
They want to be focusing on China.
It's hard to make heads or tails out of it, given the seeming omnipotence.
They want to be focusing on Russia.
Power,
they don't want to be involved in this shit.
Soft power, all of it. It seems like a jumbled mess, and there is, in fact, no real leadership able to help the U.S. Move out of the contradictions. And in fact, they're just bogged down.
Yes, and while I don't support the notion of pivot to Asia, because I don't see U.S. policy as being constructive in Asia, in East Asia, and U.S. policy towards China is only going to create catastrophe later on, just as their policy in Ukraine has created a catastrophe, and their policy in our region has created a catastrophe, and their policy in Latin America has created a catastrophe, and their policy in Africa has created a catastrophe. However, this goes back to the point that you raised earlier about the role of Israel. Is the Israeli regime an asset? And I think the response is clear. If the United States wants to pivot to Asia, again, not a policy that I approve of or you approve of, that mentality is the wrong sort of mentality. But let's say that it is what needs to be done in accordance with American global strategy. Well, the Israelis are preventing it. It is the Israeli regime's constant aggression against Palestinians and regional countries that has forced the United States and the Europeans, well, not forced them to, but it has made them spend tens of billions of dollars, probably hundreds of billions of dollars, to pump up the regime, to keep it alive, and U.S. resources from across the globe are brought to this region to protect the Israeli regime. So while the Chinese are rising peacefully, and they have their own problems, obviously, the Chinese economy is not doing very well, but at least they don't have wars they're not waging war.
What is this analogy here, Weenus? It's like Hans in Die Hard. Israel, the clever ruse to ask for the release of prisoners hostages, but really try to get shit. There goes your chat. Sorry. I can get back to where that was. The clever ruse to ask for release of prisoners and hostages, but really try to get the FBI, United States, to shut down the power to the Nakatomi building so they can loot it. I think that tracks. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure the math checks out on that analogy.
Across the globe, they can at least focus on.
There's also a lot of industries that go do things through Israel that can't easily let it go. Absolutely.
What is the United States doing? It is expanding the war in Ukraine. It is encouraging the Ukrainians to attack Russia itself, only to make things worse in the coming months. And it is encouraging genocide and Holocaust and terrorism by the Israeli regime in our part of the world, which is only going to make matters worse here as well. So is a regime that forces the Western countries, which are declining, and which have many economic problems at home and have deep divisions at home.
America declines.
Rising competitors is the Israeli regime by forcing them to spend so much money on this regime to continue carrying out genocide and wrecking the image of the West and potentially creating a regional war which could destroy the global economy. Is that an asset to the West? Imagine if the United States gets involved in a war with Iran. All U.S. bases in the Persian Gulf will be destroyed. And I know some Americans will be deeply offended. They think that their armed forces are like Superman. No, their bases are very accessible to Iran. They're right across the Persian Gulf, very close to Iran. Iran has hundreds of thousands of drones and missiles. But more important than the US bases are those nation states, those family dictatorships across the Persian Gulf that are hosting those bases. If the United States gets into conflict with
Weapons
Iran,
industry does a lot of testing there. Armaments are designed to splinter in order to cause max damage. Yeah, and I mean, like the whole Israel-Palestinian conflict is like a testing ground for technology for the West to import to, train and arm their own domestic police services in this similar kind of repression. Like the whole thing is like this testing ground. It's like this petri dish where they allow this kind of like apartheid to take place, this kind of genocide to take place. They arm and fund these Israeli security services, and then like that in turn feeds into domestic security services there. And they do a lot of cybersecurity stuff as well, for sure.
those regimes will be considered as hostile. They'll be destroyed immediately. All of those gas and oil
weapons that only work on unarmed civilians, and that's the point. Like, and when we talk about this, we support Gaza and we need to talk about Gaza, but it's not just about Gaza, because in the future that we're heading towards, there's going to be a lot of Gazas. There's going to be Gazas all throughout the Western world, on the southern United States border, domestically, like all these cop cities that are being built. Like, all of this shit is linked. That's exactly why we do need to talk about the connection between the struggles of Black Americans and Palestinians, indigenous people and Palestinians, etc. It's exactly why, because Israel and like their focus on security and apartheid and violence, that it gets exported to the West, and that gets employed against these exact marginalized communities. It's exactly why they need to have they need to be in deep solidarity with one another.
Gulf, they'll disappear. Within days, it'll be over. And the Americans will be driven from Iraq by the Iraqi resistance, and Syria as well. So imagine what sort of, I mean, the damage to the U.S. military and the image of
I wouldn't say the
United
Saudi
States
genocide in Yemen without too much noise from the West. I mean, there was a lot of opposition to it even in the U.S. Congress, and there was a lot of news stories, and like, you know, I was talking about it. A lot of people have been talking about that. I think it was maybe not quite the same, but it's also, you know, it's still a different dynamic. But I wouldn't say that. I mean, there were a lot of like war powers authorizations and bills that were passed in U.S. Congress to try and limit the Saudis' ability to wage that genocide.
That aside, imagine the global economic catastrophe that will follow. It will be far worse than 1929 and the Great Depression of the 20th century. Does that make the Israeli regime an asset or a liability? And finally, imagine the Israeli regime collapsed, and we had a situation, we had a land, Palestine, where Jews, and this is ultimately the correct solution, where Jews, Christians, and Muslims live as equal human beings. Unlike what the West and Israel want, where Palestinians are considered as subhuman. Let's say we have a situation in Palestine where all are equal human beings. Will that help the relationship between West Asia, North Africa, and Europe and the United States? Or would that harm the relationship? It would remove the most important point of contention. It would remove that which is creating anger and hostility across the region. And the West constantly says our Arab allies. The West doesn't have any Arab allies. These are a few family dictatorships. The waters may seem calm now, but you recall as well as I, in before the so-called Arab Spring or the Awakening in Tunisia, a young man burned himself alive because of a local injustice, and we saw the results. What the United States and the Europeans are doing today to the Palestinian people is creating a rage across the region and across the global South that if something happens, then they will regret it. It could be possible. It's quite possible that what happened in Tunisia 14, 15 years ago could happen again somewhere in this region. And then all these regimes that are pro-Western, all these dictatorships, they could easily fall.
As we move towards the finish here, Mohammed, I want to help everyone get some historical perspective on that, because I think it's very crucial what you're saying. The masses of people, the broad masses of people, the people who aren't normally in politics, who are just going about their lives trying to survive, when they enter a historical process at a given moment, it changes everything. You can see this in 1978 and 79 in Iran. Powerful dictatorship established by the U.S. when the U.S. carried out a coup our counter-revolution in 1953 against a democratically elected government in Iran that dared to nationalize the Anglo-Iranian oil company, which we now know as BP. The masses came in, and once the masses entered the fray, the Shah's days were numbered. The U.S., the main complaint, if you read Zbigniew Brzezinski's biography, which I don't encourage people to do, but he says his main complaint against the Shah was too weak, meaning he didn't kill enough Iranians. Like there should have been this use of massive amounts of violence on top of the already massive violence that had killed so many thousands of Iranians. Brzezinski and the Americans were upset that he wasn't more brutal. But my point is, once the people come into a process, once the dam breaks, there's nothing more powerful. When you look at the French Revolution or the Haitian Revolution or any of the revolutions that are like real, like the Iranian Revolution, like real markers and turning points in human history, it's when the masses finally come in, and they come in sort of towards the end. But when you
have to remember, in Iran, Jimmy Carter, right before the revolution began to explode, he was in Tehran months before the overthrow of the Shah, and he said that Iran under the Shah is an island of stability. And there were tens of thousands of American advisors in Iran and others in Iran. They didn't see it coming. So how can they be sure that as people across the region are watching children being beheaded, massacred day and night, men and women being raped, and people being slaughtered morning to night, that at some point they will not react and undermine those regimes that are in bed with Americans, in bed with Israelis? I think I'm not saying it is inevitable, but I think that the chances of something happening are very high. Anger is growing, and the longer this war takes, the more it expands, the more dangerous it becomes for the United States.
I remember that quote from Jimmy Carter, Iran and the Shah were an island of stability in a sea of turmoil.
That's right.
Was the actual quote. And I remember it because shortly thereafter, I was marching with Iranian students in America who were protesting against the SAVAK that was, really, entering the United States to deal with Iranians who were dissenters. And the Shah came out on the west side of the north side of the White House by Lafayette Park, and he stood with the Shah. This was right after he said, "You are an island of stability in a sea of turmoil," meaning the Middle East. And the Iranian students started moving towards where they were standing, and the police started firing tear gas at all the protesters, but the wind changed, and the tear gas wafted back and right into the face of the Shah and Jimmy Carter. And so you could see them crying on the White House lawn. And this was right after they said, "You're an island of stability in a sea of turmoil." It's a perfect scenario because then, as you're saying, shortly thereafter, Iran erupts. And many people thought at that time that Saudi Arabia would erupt. Ronald Reagan said at that time, there will not be a revolution in Saudi Arabia, as if he could determine the destiny of the people there. But it meant that the U.S. was now, having lost Iran, was going to insist that the Saudi regime stay intact. So again, I want people to really, we always think things don't really change until they really change. And then you look back and you say, oh, we could see that coming. That was inevitable. Well, when people are watching a genocide in real time, as you're pointing out, as they are in the streets, as they suffer indignity after indignity, at a certain point, the dam does break, and it will break. I mean, that's what I think will happen. And more than half of the Israeli population has a second passport. As a settler regime, a lot of people can leave. And so we could be on the verge of a complete reorganization of the Middle East. What many of the Palestinians are calling the era of national liberation has begun. Anyway, it's pregnant with all of these possibilities that people usually don't think are possible and certainly not likely. But when you look at the last 25 years, I can't come to any other conclusion. Anyway, with that said, I'm going to give you the last word.
I agree that the world is changing and that people across the world are aware of what's going on. But what is most encouraging for me is that many people in the West are waking up to the reality. Many young Jews, Christians, Muslims, Hindus, people from all walks of life, they are resisting against empire. They are outraged by the genocide. And what they do is very important, not only because it puts pressure on these Western regimes that are neither free nor democratic, and which are just as guilty as the Zionist soldiers who are carrying out these atrocities, but it also shows the rest of the world that people in the United States, people across Europe like them are outraged. People who are Christian, Jewish,
Harden
Muslim,
your heart.
people from across the country, Hindu, whatever, they too feel the same. And people across the world don't see the West as a united people who are backing these horrific policies.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Mohammed Marandi.
Great stuff from Brian Becker and Breakthrough News as usual. I'm going to link the video in the chat right now. Make sure you support their work. Always, I think, very valuable. And I'm going to get going pretty soon. I just crossed the 3-hour mark for the stream, so I am going to get going pretty soon. Still a measly... What is it? Still a measly 12 subs to go to get to the goal, chat. So if you do want to support this program, please help me get to the sub goal. 12 subs to go would be fantastic to get there if possible. And remember as well, this week and for the foreseeable future, tips, very, very valuable. And I really appreciate those a lot as well. Those are super helpful. So once again, if you do enjoy this program, if you like tuning into this show each and every day, and you enjoy the work that I do on here and the discussions and the analysis and all the good stuff that happens on here, the memes, the jokes, the talk of jacking off and all that stuff. It's all here. It's all happening. It's all happening on TRRS. So please subscribe if you can. We got 12 subs to go. I think it's possible. I think it's doable. So chat, if possible, please do subscribe. I really appreciate it. It helps out a lot. And I love you. When you subscribe, it's true. I do. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I do. I really do. You know who I'm talking about. You know who you are.
You can
Visionary.
count on me. You're gonna have good old
Thank you for the
Rob
prime.
to talk you through all this.
Thank you for the prime. Brand new prime sub from Visionary. I really appreciate that. Thank you. The Fat Pussy Childhood Stories. That's right. Yes. That is right. Thank you, Visionary. 11 subs to go, chat. So close. And once again, the tips also very, very helpful. Very, very helpful and welcome. Those tips. Kijiji, thanks for the 420.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to
That's the
talk you
weed
through
number,
all this.
Kijiji.
Maybe you can get an iced coffee made by a bisexual with this tip.
Thank you, Kijiji. I appreciate it. I ended up here through 2 different raids from Majority Report over the last few weeks. Yeah, that's my man, Matt Leck, who I appreciate a whole lot. And Weenus. Weenus, you just gifted another sub, which I appreciated a lot. Joe, thanks for the 333. Thank you. It didn't seem to go above 69. I was about to call your bluff, Weenus. Maybe it's just stuck there. It just doesn't want you to go above that, which is nice. I love that. Saw you were from Montreal, so why not support a local? Hey, fellow Montrealer, we love it. The weed number and the sex number all in one. Wonderful. Wonderful. Jack-off jokes, insightful and needed political commentary, bunkerization in the trickle-down clout system, and jack-off jokes. Exactly. It's all the bases are covered. I've been lamenting that I'm lazy and not searching for local political commentators, and there you are. And I'm actually probably don't spend enough time talking about local politics, which I should engage with more. I do talk about Canada a lot, but just in the light of the Gaza war and this election, it's hard to find the time in the day to focus too much on Canada lately. Though I do a lot of Canada content, though. Rob's actually in Langley. Rob's actually from Memphis. Memphis, Tennessee, Mr. Lawler. You from Memphis? Is that we're talking Memphis, Tennessee? Mr. Lawler? That's how they talk there. Really one of the best promos.
You know what, Mr. Lawler? I've heard all these things you've been saying about me on television.
One of the greatest pro wrestling promos ever. I would say it's top 5 for me.
You know what, Mr. Lawler? I've heard all these things you've been saying about me on television. You want to wrestle me? You want to wrestle me, Memphis style? All right, fine. I'm not afraid of you, Mr. Lawler, because let me tell you something. True, I only wrestle women, but I've wrestled women that are a lot bigger and stronger than you. Matter of fact, they're probably smarter than you because you don't have any brains. You're from Memphis, Tennessee. All you do is plow the fields and farm and the farmer. Is that how you talk in Memphis, Tennessee, Mr. Lawler? See, Mr. Lawler, you don't have any brains. I'm from Hollywood. I have the brains. That's how I win my matches. I say the bigger they come, the harder they fall.
Oh man, that pops me every time. Is that how they talk in Memphis, Tennessee, Mr. Lawler? Blah, 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 blah. He's just a piece of shit. What a piece of shit that guy is. I am skipping the part where he wrestles the woman and attacks her and shoves her face into the ground. Yes, I just wanted to see the Memphis thing. It's great. She's like, I think she's really hurt. Let's call an ambulance. Okay, fine.
You might be twice as big as me, but I've wrestled women that are twice as big as me, and I've mopped the floor with them. And that's what I'm going to do with you, Mr. Lawler. You challenged me to a wrestling match. I think you bit off a little more than you can chew. I'm going to wipe the floor with you, Mr. Lawler. I'll give you a little sample. This is what's going to happen when you and I wrestle each other in Memphis. Come here. What's your name?
Susan.
How tall are you, Susan?
6 foot.
And how much do you weigh?
327.
327 pounds. That's a lot more than you weigh, Lawler. Okay? Watch this. Let's go.
Come on, baby! That's what's just gonna happen to you, Lawler! See? Come on, baby! Come on!
Andy, I think you really hurt her. Doesn't matter. She doesn't have any money. She's poor. She can't sue me.
See, I can do anything I want!
Put the camera
Come
off.
on!
Shut this camera
off! Come on, baby! Wrestle!
Oh my. Oh my. It is problematic. It is. No, there's no denying that. You can't do this anymore because of wokeness. That's the problem. Because of wokeness. That's right, Bleep Lord. Anyway, folks, we got 10 more subs to go. And we do a final plea. A final plea. 10 subs to go. Does anyone else want to support this program and help me get to my daily sub goal and help the little number at the bottom of the screen go up? Does anyone else want to support this program? It's very, very close. I would appreciate it a whole lot, if possible. I'm going to take the chat to the ground like that, exactly. Doesn't matter. You're poor. You're not going to sue me. Just waiting for those last subs to come in. Any moment now, I know. Any moment now, those last 10 subs are going to come in. It's going to be fantastic. It is going to be fantastic. What a great way to end the week that's going to be. When those final 10 subs come through. I'm excited. I'm excited. And you know what? I'm so confident that they're going to come in. I'm going to start the raid right now. I'm going to go ahead and start the raid right now. And I'm sure...
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Tropical, thank you for another gifted sub. That's very kind of you. There we go. We got 9 to go. And I'm positive. You know what? I'm 100% certain that those last 9 subs are gonna come in. I've never been more certain of anything in my life. Is shooting a 3 and not even watching a drop. Exactly.
You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
Oh my god. Thank you, Visionary. Thank you for that. Oh my gosh. I'll see you on Monday, folks.